My God, is that my face?
Yeah, that's your face. Well, I see just top of your head right now. Still doesn't look like we're live, even though I hit go live here. No, I think we're live. It says live. There we go. Let me do this.
Messed up.
Does that mean we're live, Ronald? Yeah, we're live. I think I just have to refresh this page.
Oh, gotcha.
Shit. Apparently, there's an ad.
Hold on, I'm gonna mute down.
No, I think we're live. It says live. So now we just have to stop everything for a minute. I think I just have to refresh this page. Oh, gotcha. Is that you? You got to mute it.
I'm muted.
Apparently, there's an ad.
Hold on, I'm gonna mute down.
Well, this is fun. Mute. Okay, I think I was doing it. I was totally blaming you.
No, it's not me. Yeah, it wasn't me.
It was 100% me. So there you go. Clearly, I just blame everybody else. I had opened in two different windows.
I just went ahead and shut down on my windows, so I'm.
Yeah, we'll let it catch up for a second.
I cleared.
All right, this was my first time doing it, like putting the post up ahead of time. So it seems like it's working. Hey everybody, welcome to the oddball start. As always, I'm Daniel Norton. Hopefully you know if you're on my channel, and I'm here with G. I'm going to point up because to me you're up. I don't know if you're actually up on the.
Yeah, I'm up.
Yeah. So no, I mean like up, like to me you're up. Like I think on YouTube you're sideways, but it's delayed, so I don't know which way. Anyways, this is G.
Hey, hi everybody. Glad to be here.
So welcome guys. So I'm going to try to do this more often, have people on and talk to them. And I thought I'd start with Gene because, Gene's the man. What can I say? I've known Gene for, 10, 7, 8, 6,
something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. When he was just a humble rock star. He was never humble, but he was a humble rock star. And
I'm humble now. Kids will humble you really quick. So yeah, I'm pretty humble.
Dad / photographer / video guy / what in my phone, by the way, I don't know if you know this, you are still listed as Gene the video guy.
And you were still listed as Daniel Lightbringer. So you are still in there as that. I refuse to update it.
Yeah, because I guess when we very first met, you gave me your phone number. I just knew it was Gene, so I just wrote the video guy, so I would remember that. And yeah. So
I remember that. I think the first time I met you, I had just done a workshop with Joe McNally, and I walked into Adorama one night because they were, pimping out some of their video stuff, all that stuff that everybody does. And I walked back to the pro section where you were in the dark by your kiosk. And then Annie was over to the right, and I came up to you and I was like, so I want a video and I don't know which one I want. And I was like, I think I should do Joe McNally, but I'm really not sure. And you just looked at Annie and then looked at me and you just kind of started laughing. I looked over and then I recognized her and I felt like a complete idiot. So, and I don't think I've ever stopped feeling like a complete idiot since then. So that was.
Yeah, join the club.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, you guys helped bring me in there. And that was fun to be in there for the heartbeats that we were there. You started up that whole pro department, and it was a fun time, whether, I think a lot of the times we'll remember some of the frustration, but there were some crazy moments in there where we were doing bad cop, good cop stuff. I mean, and the stuff we did extracurricularly too. I mean, you really showed me a lot of, I think it's interesting when a Midwestern kid, or comes up from the South, and I was in professional sports that time for, a good chunk of my career. And I thought I was, pretty hot stuff. Really, I did. And then you come up to this market and you just get slapped back and forth because there's so much talent. And then even coming in, you like, oh, I could do still photography, all the time we spent there learning. And then honestly, you went from pro, this philanthropist on the pro side or an entrepreneur on the pro side to, educator. And it just blew up from there for you. And it's just, you've been able, it was awesome. I think you've actually kind of, I don't know, say maybe you have become a little bit more humbler, because even then I think there was like this pent up, just aggression and like get out there and shoot because you've been doing it for so long. And, in the market, just once the digital stuff started coming, it was just like everybody's a professional photographer at that point. So you
Yeah.
really, it's done wonders for you too.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Right. We went through a lot, and we'll probably talk about a lot of it. So we built up, Gene was there right in ground floor, and we built up what was at the time called Adorama Pro, which kind of was, Adorama had decided, people probably don't realize this now because 10 years into it, they were thinking about it. But, their main market, well, of course, professional shop there was kind of consumer based. Like they advertised and they pushed out to consumers, consumers that never had let's say never had planned on going pro. Not to say that everybody starts somewhere. And what they really brought me in for was they were like, I remember I said this a lot, Harry, my interview with Harry was, you're a pro photographer, you have all the experience. That's what we want. We don't want a salesperson. We know that. We want somebody that's a pro photographer that's going to basically be able to help direct. And then they brought Annie who had lots of, experience with tons of the Nikon professionals. And she's just amazing marketing person. But that's all they wanted. They wanted basically actual people that were in the field that had knowledge to be able to talk to people at their level. And that's where you came from with a background, in your sports and in video and stuff. That's why you were brought in. And that was our goal, was just to be the people. Like we were the customers. So we became like the people that the customers talk to, I guess is basically the,
but that even, for me personally, that was kind of a launch pad, and as far as almost like from an education, like a speed dating in education purposes, because they had your portraits. Annie obviously was amazing in her own right. Ephraim he's basically the Rain Man of freaking every little trinket that Adorama had, just getting to learn the interest, how to put rigs together, how to do all of that, and just learn on the fly. It was remarkable because there are 1,000 ways to do the right thing. It's just a matter of how we choose to do them. And obviously, you get people that came in from every end of the spectrum, from the pro to, the esoteric hobbyist to the isolationist. Just the craziest people you can think of on the planet. And you had to figure out how to work with them. And a lot of them, a lot of people who were there who still came to sales and didn't really feel like, okay, this is going to be a long time, go to Gene or Daniel or somebody, and then it'd just be like this little game. But I think for me personally, the education just went skyrocketed because every couple of months products will be just launching out of nowhere, or people will be trying to hawk you their wares. me, I was looking for freebies everywhere. I was like, oh, you got a light here, give me a light, give me this. Do I know how to use it? Nope, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It puts you, when you're actually involved in that part of it, we're not, I see Seth there. Seth, I am humble. You didn't know me back then.
I do. He is humble.
Yeah, because I came from, as a fashion background, if you have to own it and believe it. Like fashion photographers are the most arrogant people in the world because they have to be. It's just part of the job. And I think I've become much more humble.
Well, you have. Well, I'm not just humble, but I think your direction. But then again, honestly, lately, I think for both of us, we've almost been two passing ships in the night because you went out on the educational aspect, and I stuck around the industry, and obviously went with with a camera manufacturer, and I try to do my own spin on that from that way instead of just head-to-head content creation. Which as of right now, during this time, it's probably a smarter move because everyone's creators aren't getting that much work right now. It's like I've been trying to pick up little editing jobs where I can just to try and, keep my wife happy and my family fed. So, but it's certainly just taken a big spin. So for you, I see you like in this aspect a lot more than, when we would go out to Shake Shack or something on Fridays and then go out and shoot or something like that. So, those are the fun times that I certainly remember there a lot more than a lot of sometimes the frustration you ran into on, from just the bureaucratic standpoint. But Adorama is great. But they're always, you're right. And remember Ben Lowenson said, when he was manager there, that he wanted to make that store like almost like a magazine. Like it would change every month, issue to issue, and have different focuses. And, he had big visions for it, and obviously when you have a lot of chiefs in there and not enough Indians, it's tough to get things going without jumping through hoops. So the fact that you navigated those waters and built that department for what it was, I think that's that just speaks volumes. I mean, the fact that it's still, and it's going head to head with everybody else, is probably it's probably the best one with everything else stuff that you guys have going on there. And Seth too, so that's okay.
Yes, that's not bad. Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, you learn, actually, this came up yesterday because we did if people didn't see it, you can go on Adorama's Facebook. There was a chat with I don't want to say all the hosts because it wasn't every host, but there was a lot of hosts on there. And yeah, we were all talking about how we learn from each other. It's funny like that. You know, you do, like everybody and every person. When I was, you know, I was the guy that they brought in to do the lighting, you know, and so every person that walked in the store that needed to well, not every person, but people that need to be consulted on lighting, especially bigger projects. I mean, I learned too, in a sense, by helping people, because every time something's put in front of you as a project, like if you're a photographer and you walk in and you're like, Daniel, you know, I need to set up a studio. Like there was this one guy that shoots a lot of covers for. He worked for a manufacturer of bass guitars, and his name was Jay. Really, really cool guy. He's actually a musician, but got involved in photography. It's funny, interesting, right? And we set up a studio for him, and it was basically, he had his ideas of what he wanted to do. So in a sense, it wasn't just like I just pull something, you know, I have a studio in my brain. I'm just like, yeah, here's the stuff you want. We had to look at his budget, you know, what he was trying to do. He was shooting these magazine covers of, you know, these bass guitarists who would come in, you know, that were repped by the company or whatever. And he'd have so much time to work with them. He had to get certain shots he had to get. So like I had to think about that just like a photographer would, you know. It's almost like it's my shoot, you know, and I had to be like, okay, well, this is how I would do it. You know, this is what you do, and you learn by helping people. So I think even though we're educating, we're also learning ourselves. Yeah, that's kind of one thing I really like about it.
Well, that was right. Absolutely right. I mean, getting the spin off of it and even on the production side, I mean, I learned so much on the video side, how to, you know, who did what for what company and how, you know, just because, I mean, we had one guy come in, I think he came in every day for probably a month because he was designing this thing called the Padcaster. Do you remember that thing, the Padcaster?
Oh my God.
I mean, I had to figure out every little step up, step down ring, every little microfocal lens adapter thing that would go into this thing. And we would be sitting there for hours just putting it together. I almost felt like a watchmaker, you know, because I mean, it was building from the ground up. I mean, it was nothing that had been done before. He just had this vision and, you know, and we just bring out these parts and try to make it work. And, you know, it landed him an Apple commercial. So I guess that we did something right. But I mean, there was a lot of stress there too. I mean, I remember the first time, I think it was early on for me, and I sold you know, we used to get all these trust fund kids in, and, you know, Leica is always the hip thing. So, hey, you got any Leicas? Sure, I got a Leica. And of course, you know, those of us that, you know, kind of made a certain amount of commission, you're just like, hell yeah, I'm going to sell a Leica M6 specially used, like, did. So they bring one up like a TTL black and, you know, mint condition. And this kid would bring out daddy's credit card. And then they'd come back like, oh, hey, can you help me load film into this thing? I remember, I think I came up to you once because I was like, this thing isn't working properly. And you just looked at me and you went, nope, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, like these kids. So yeah, it's you know, but yeah, I always looked at it almost like a terminal for people to come in, of creatives of all types, because you'd meet everyone from celebrities, you know, James Gandolfini, Rick O'Casey from the Cars, and all these guys. And unfortunately, you know, quite a few have passed by now, and then you'd get to kind of work with him, and, you know, it's kind of cool just for those few moments, really. Or, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, famous photographers, Mick Rock, you know, and Mark Seliger, stuff like that. So that was fun.
Yeah, I guess because we're in New York too, right? It's so interesting, and like people, you know, look at, I guess, famous people, you know, if they're interested in photography or whatever, right? You know, they'll come to a place like Adorama. I mean, Adorama is actually kind of, so you meet a lot of people, you know, and it's really interesting, and you can't ever judge anybody who walks in. You know, you always had to look at it like, you just don't know, you know, like people come in and they're interested in something, you know, they might be the next huge person, or you just might not know who they are, you know, so you always treat everybody kind of the same. You learn pretty quickly if they knew something or didn't by how they speak to you. But Ronald, how old is that bunny Peck? How old is that bunny Peck, G?
I was wondering about that. Well, you know, that's my friend Jess. I've got to say, she's married now and everything, and I've got to think that was 2000 and, hold on a second, I'm gonna say 14, no, I don't know, 13 or 14 maybe. Does that sound right to you? I mean, I'm trying to look at it, I'm trying to think about it, because I was still smiling back then. I don't think I had, you know, I don't think parenthood had fully taken charge, so I had, you know, more hair. Still had some brain cells left.
Yeah, there was hair in my head. Let me see. Yeah, I forget. I'm trying to remember what you said. Like you were like, yeah, my friend, she wants pictures that are like a combination of Batman.
Or combination of what?
It was what did you say? It was like Batman and Maxima or something. It was some strange like combination.
Well, I had
of
this.
things.
Remember, I had this little. Okay, all right. Here's the deal. I don't know if you remember this, but I had this vision of putting us together in a way, because the way that we shoot. I mean, what I learned from when we did some of the shootings, like the good cop, bad cop thing. I was always, hey, I love mom. Give me a hug type of thing. And you were kind of standoffish to a degree, and we played really well like that. And I think, we were able to get some good work out of that. So I was like, why don't we use that to our advantage and take people, because obviously everyone wants to look attractive and everything. And we were just going to do that, like, I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors type of thing, where we would, kind of do boudoir shoots for, people that, were coming into New York, and wanted something done, wanted to be glamorized a little bit, but not edgy. And I think that's what we were looking for.
Yeah, we were creating this like edgy. And your friend wanted these pictures. I think she had. I don't want to say stories about some people I don't know, but she had got divorced or something, or just broke up with somebody. I can't remember.
No, yeah, well, she had just gotten divorced.
Yeah, and she just was like, I want to feel like sexy and glam or whatever, and we were just like,
yeah.
So you were like, shoot my friend. So that's where that came about. So I had. So we were just hanging out. Yeah. So
we were saying that's. That's a random shot with props in your dressing room, your studio dressing room. Really, I mean.
Yeah.
And honestly,
I went through a bunny ears phase.
Yeah, it's very spontaneous. It's spontaneous and just kind of just, hey, damn. I kind of always, I was really like, I still am a little bit, but I mean, you have that whole David Lynch period of just kind of looking at that awkwardness and like pulling up the carpet underneath what everyone thinks and who they are, and just kind of go to town and just be just kind of be, I don't know what the word is, I want to be politically correct, but
my mom watches this,
so just be dangerous. I wanted us to be dangerous. I wanted to be dangerous. I mean, I felt like we had done a few shoots prior to that where we had gone on Model Mayhem and we'd gotten some stuff. I had a studio in a factory in Jersey City.
Oh, that's right.
We remember, I mean, we had pretty fun that night. I mean, that was a couple of those nights. I mean, it was just a really cool place to kind of shoot, and you could just find dark corners and just, hey, let's try this. And I thought, honestly, the whole goal, I mean, at the end of the day is like, let's monetize so that we could do this professionally. And, obviously I think it was almost at that point, maybe that was 2015 or so, because your career at that point, I think, started to take a little bit of a detour, because you're definitely getting more into content creation and heading up the pro side and everything. You'd gone from doing demos in the middle of the store to actually getting the event space together and and getting all that stuff together. And so it kind of, I think that springboarded you a little bit. And honestly, I mean, for me, I was just kind of like, I was like still stuck in that. I need to make money. I have family. And I was pretty pissed off too, because I was desperately trying to find ways to get back into production. I mean, I felt like I had a lot of unfinished business there, and this just honestly, obviously, I mean, for people that, are artists or creatives and you're stuck in the retail outlet, even if it's the retail outlet of what all that is, you still feel stuck. And I think that's where both of us had, but you really were able to push that into a direction and take charge. And honestly, dealing with everyone there at that point, because Annie had left. I mean, you were just like, okay, what's going to happen? And you just kind of grabbed it by the reins, and you talked to the powers that be and got your own stuff going on. I mean, you were kind of a migrant for a while, moving from one area to whatever. It was kind of like a little troop, and then I was kind of like the lighthouse guy, where I was kind of like just there. But I mean, I knew I didn't want to be there, so it kind of, just because I just you just you're hungry. You're more of it's when you're an outdoor cat. Some people are outdoor cats, some people are indoor cats. And like right now, through this whole thing where we're just stuck inside and talking to people on computers, like this for me, this is like my grown-up talk for the day. I mean, as soon as I hang up here, what do? I go down into the house. It's gonna be trash. My wife is gonna be like, take the kids, So it's almost like Mad Max. I'm just gonna build Thunderdome in my basement, just put the kids in there. Because as of right now, it's like 3 weeks. I mean, I think, and even now, and I want to know what your thoughts are as far as how you've been spending your time creating. I mean, I've been doing some stuff I'm with Sony Alpha, so we've been doing some spots, some tips and tricks spots where I've just converted this whole guest room, which by the way, I had been kicked out of for a few months by my wife, but now I'm back in it, thank God. So I've got all my junk in here again and I feel at home and I can just hide out, but I can, shoot and stuff. And then also, just going out when we can, walking the dog and taking some photos, some infrared stuff. And I don't know, just trying to document as well as I can. I think everyone's trying to do it. So, but it's not necessarily a time that, you got to, in troubling times, it's either you just kind of fold or you just dive right into it. So I think we're the type of people that dive into it. I mean, what have you been doing besides this?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting, right? We are, on like some like abstracted level, it's like, well, if everybody has to work from home, you kind of have more time. But you realize that because you can't really go anywhere, you can't do the things. Like if you want to do like let's say I want to do some splashes, and I want to do that. Well, that's fine. But I might normally, if I'm going to do that for a video or I want to teach that, I'm going to like go buy cups for it or buy certain things that are going to put into this, like, maybe fake ice cubes, which I have at the studio, or maybe like, I don't know, like olives to drop into a fake martini for a splash shot. But like that requires me now to go to a store, which we're really not supposed to be going out just for random things, right? So you have to plan a little better, I think, if you want to do things. I'm also pretty, as much as I'm in the public world, I guess I'm pretty private. Like, so I it's a little weird for me to like shoot stuff in my house because I don't like to necessarily, do that. So, but that's going to change because we change with the times and
Be
but
flexible.
I'm mostly just kind of switching my mindset to more of a abstracted creative thought process thing and versus doing actual shoots. Although we're going to start shooting this week, I got some ideas. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's tricky because I shoot people, and I always say that, like I've done many things. One of the things I think was important early in my career was when I was a photo assistant, was because I was stupid and just like quit my job with like without, well, maybe I was smart and just like moved and I'm like, I'm gonna be a photographer no matter what. I had to take every job, like people I knew many photo assistants that were like, I want to do, political portraits, let's say. I'm only going to work for those photographers that do that. Now we'll just hound them until they hire me. And otherwise I have either a trust fund or I have another job I'm doing. I did not do that. I was completely broke and I was like, I will do anything. So I worked for tons of different photographers and that actually gave me a huge skill set. So I can shoot product, I can shoot food, I can shoot stuff, but I like to shoot people. So being not around people makes it a lot more difficult for me to actually get inspired to work. So yeah, so I'm kind of reformatting my brain to do that again.
Well, it's almost one thing that you taught me, really that I think probably the biggest thing that, when we photographed together, that I tended, I think early on, to be a little bit more reactive, a lot more than I wanted to. Now it's almost like I fight it because I want to tell truth that I see in others, in those images versus what they think they see themselves, and you had a good way of just breaking down and, peeling away the layers of that onion that I think that's one thing that I take from you, and a little bit from McNally too, but, that's a little bit opposite ends of the spectrum on the mood way. But, I think that's something that I always try to implement in what I do, just from what I've done working with you.
Oh, yeah. I think that's important. I kind of got that. I guess that's a little Avedon-y, right? It's like
yeah, exactly.
It's like you go into. I saw this interview with Avedon once, and it seemed. I don't know him. I never knew him personally. I never met the guy, but it just seemed like on some level he was kind of a dick, but in a good way. Like he didn't go into a situation where he was like he like I said, fashion photographers are kind of assholes. You have to be. It's part of what you do. And Avedon seemed like he did not walk into a situation saying, oh, I want to make you look the way that you look best and make you happy with the way you look. And what do you think? He just did what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And in the end, because this is particularly what he was talking about in this situation, was people that would initially look at the contact sheets and hate the photos. And then years later would be like, this is the best photo that's ever been taken of me. And that was always my goal, was like, not that you would hate the photo, but that you'd be like, wow, this is something so different. Like normally everybody does this with me and you did something different. So at first I'm like repelled by it a little bit, but then when I look at it, I'm like, wow, you know what? That's such a truth. And that's always kind of what I'm looking for in photography, which is one reason why sometimes you see me like criticizing, like over retouching over that stuff. Because I feel like that stuff peels away. It peels away that truth. Like that's what everybody else is doing. What I want to do is show the person, like in the rawness of them. And you lose that when you spend too much time worrying about making it perfect in a sense.
I mean, remember, I don't even remember. Do you remember we had God, I forget that kid's name. His name is Daniel. He worked at Adorama, and he was trying to do his own fashion line. And we did this fashion shoot for him. Do you remember this? And we were shooting, you were shooting. And then you were looking at this, the screen, and she walks over, and you just look at me like, did I ask you to come over here? Get back there. It's just like, boom.
Yes, I definitely have notorious prima donna moments.
Dude, that was perfect. But I mean, there was no argument. It was back in line. It was almost like your military training, just boom.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in context, we basically, I was using these dado lights, and basically I had, was it like 4 people or something? They were all in this like kind of structure, and like literally
they were in your corner. You had that corner that you always built.
Yeah, I do the corner thing. So
genius.
So I literally was letting each person separately, like very precisely, and shooting tethered. I guess I was shooting tethered. And like I'm like studying the shots and moving people slightly. And all of a sudden I turned, and like this woman, like she got out of the place and moved up to look at it. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It was brilliant. I mean, honestly, for me, I was like, I really want to do this, because I'm always such a nice guy. But I mean, speaking what you said about Avedon, it's really interesting. I was doing my first Zoom meeting with my therapist last week. I was like, that's really weird having therapy across this. And then I'm looking, and you can look at, like we were talking earlier, like you can see what books on the bookshelf. And I saw she had this huge Avedon book. And I was like, is that Avedon? And I was like, you're in this, and it's interesting you said you didn't know him, because it seems like I made a joke to her that, everybody's been Avedon's assistant. That seems like, everybody would come into Adorama, or even my mom's 80-year-old friend who lives in the Upper East Side, her younger brother was Avedon's assistant, like for a bit, like when he was doing his Western stint or something like that. So I have to think that if he went through so many assistants, he probably wasn't the easiest guy to work with. But
yeah, well, I think that a lot of bigger photographers have lots of like extra assistants. Sure. And they have because I know I'm getting into the whole, I'm always like, Annie Leibovitz always comes up for some reason. She's amazing. I love Annie Leibovitz. Listen, she's awesome. Say what you want. That was the thing. When I was a photo assistant, people would always be like, everybody had worked with Annie Leibovitz. And that was the thing. She had like 1 or 2 that she always used. And then she had like 3 or 4 like extra assistants that would just like, literally there was one. I mean, I don't know if this is true. And this is like circulated around the assistant, channels where we would always talk about it. She would always have 2 extra assistants that would literally just sit in the car. Like just in case she needed extra people, and they would just get paid to sit there. They wouldn't even come on the set.
Like if she was done with somebody, just
well, more like if she just needed somebody, she like did. Gotcha. In other words, the budgets were so large that she could basically just have people just there, and like so it was like and that bred this idea of like maybe she doesn't really know what she's doing because her assistants do all the work. No, she's the director at that point. When you're that big. When you're that big of a photographer, you don't touch all the lights and move everything yourself. You're a director. You basically have people do it. You teach them to do it your way. And I think that's what people that look from the outside and don't understand it don't get. In fact, very specifically, I heard this said about Joe. I was on a shoot for Adorama with Joe. One of the ones we did the Alien in the Diner, and somebody who was there was like, wow, man, it's funny how Joe's assistants really set everything up. It's like, no. They do, yes. But those assistants are trained by Joe to do the thing that he wants them to do. So it looks like they're doing everything, but really he's directing it. And that's what you have to understand.
Right. I know. Absolutely. And he's had some of the same crew like Callie and everybody for a while. So, I mean, that's, I think that was one of my biggest things. A big misconception for me coming up, like, I can just get in there. Let's see, if Joe McNally is an assistant or something. I'm like, A, I'm not young enough. B, I'm not attractive enough. C, I'm just, there are just all these, I mean, because of how much it goes into it that those guys know. I mean, Drew went out on his own. He's a really successful photographer. And, those guys are just great. I mean, just everything about that crew is just amazing. I mean, some of the best people. I mean, that's definitely one of the stories as far as meeting someone you really admire and not being disappointed. That's one of the few for me, I think, And
yeah. He's, what I told Annie when I first met her about Joe was I said, this is before I was doing videos or whatever. I said, I look at a lot of people that do these videos and seminars and stuff. And then I think, I've never heard of these people. Like, who the hell are they? But when I see one by Joe, I'm like, oh, I know who Joe McNally is. Like, it kind of gives you this, it's the thing that I talk about maybe a little bit that Seth talks about a little bit too, is these people that come out of nowhere that just like all of a sudden they're authorities, and it's like, huh? But like Joe, I was always like, well, he's a respected photographer. I would love to see something that he has to say, and that's kind of how I look at it, Not to say that any person doesn't know something, but he's definitely got the.
I agree entirely about what you said. I mean, especially on the influencer side, because it's almost like a flash in a pan. You have all of these guys just come out of the woodwork and not necessarily technically trained or anything like that, but it's a matter of, honestly, it's just a matter of clicks, about reviews. It doesn't matter the quality of the work anymore. It doesn't matter it's how many people you got actually looking at it. And it bothers me to no end. I mean, I'm definitely not in the fan camp of a lot of that stuff. I mean, I've met a lot of these influencers. I think they're good kids. But, say you have someone like, okay, well, I work at night in New York City and I'm in construction. So I get to see a lot of different things that no one else gets to see, a lot of different views. So you just start taking out your phone and boom, boom, boom. And before you know it, you have over 100,000 followers because people want to see that. I mean, that doesn't make you an authority on photography. I mean, there's no,
right.
So it bothers me, but I'll leave it at that. But I mean,
I think that people have to hopefully discover that on their own. And I mean, and everybody has something to teach, So my feeling is if you, let's say you have an Instagram page and you travel around and you shoot, a lot of the people that are large, that are bigger Instagram followings are travel photographers, which makes sense. People like to look at beautiful pictures. So they do have something to say. It's like they did something, but if like the guy that goes around the world shooting beautiful landscapes all of a sudden is teaching a class on how to use off-camera flash, perhaps that's not the guy's class you want to go to, because that's not their specialty. It's like, that's kind of how you have to look at it.
Oh, and I think we do, but I think there are a lot of good examples out there where that has crashed and burned.
No, I don't know. Yes.
So you're right. You have to figure out. And I think that begs the question. I mean, I brought this up. I was emceeing an event in Brooklyn a few months ago with a group of Sony artisans, and I posed the question, like, is it better to be good at many things, or do you want to be great at one thing? And it's an interesting, I think it's an interesting question because honestly, I think, I'm pretty good at a lot of things. I don't know that I'm necessarily great at anything. And, but again, when you look at the Instagrammers, like they are great at certain, like one little niche things, like people want to see food photography. They go, this one guy, that's food. You don't want them to see pictures of his kids. You don't want to see anything like that. And, but again, I think also one of the answers that came back to that was, well, I mean, if you're in a New York market, that's one thing. If you're like in the Midwest in Ohio, it's a different thing because you don't need a one-trick pony. You need a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's really, I think there's a place for, I mean, I try to be, there's moments, of course, where we joke about and you want to make fun of whatever. I mean, listen, if you're out there with your camera and you're able to produce, excellent work, then good for you. Like, I don't have any problem with that. Like I say, I have a problem when they spread misinformation, which then causes, just an overall issue, because then you end up like confronting that and you're just like, well, hold on, like that's just not true, and you're getting like lots of information where it's not true. And it's not even that the person's doing it maliciously, they just don't know, they don't get that this is that. What I sometimes say is some people can create good pictures and they don't really know how they did it, and that's the truth. I mean, it's like not even that it's not even
happy accidents.
Well, it's that, but it's not even like they can even repeat it, like they can do it over and over again, but they could never really tell you how to do it because they don't really know, because they're not technical, and that's fine. And those people shouldn't teach the technical. That's my only thought about those people. I mean, I actually don't. I mean, look at anything. Like I think of them like pop singers. There's plenty of musicians that have one hit or whatever that they're competent and they can do their thing, but they won't have like a long lasting career necessarily. And that's what I think a lot of influencers end up being, and that's fine too. I mean, why not?
Well, is the algorithm changed? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true. No, but I just wanted, because Robbie mentioned, and people always throw this shit out there. Avedon did a lot of darkroom work. Yes, but that's completely different. Avedon looked at what he shot, and first of all, he shot, especially in the American West, which is my favorite Avedon series. He shot everything super flat on purpose because he knew with 8x10 he would be able to, and he didn't do it. He had people do it. They would be able to increase contrast and do those kind of things. I mean, that's much different than people do Photoshop. To compare the darkroom to Photoshop is such a incorrect way of looking at things. I'm sorry, like the darkroom is completely different than Photoshop. And shooting something and correcting it or to be within the bias of the paper / the film is completely different than going in there and changing things in compositions. And again, nothing's wrong with doing multiple compositions of images. I'm just saying it's not my thing. You know, I don't want to. But anyways, that whole thing, because that it used to be Ansel Adams. No, Ansel Adams. And I agree. If Ansel Adams was still alive, not that I knew Ansel Adams, I bet you he'd be a Photoshop master. He would probably be, because he was totally into image manipulation, 100%. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. No, you're absolutely. Yeah, I agree entirely. And I think one of these guys on here is asking about, I finally just got back into the chat. So I'm like, oh, people are typing things. Woohoo. He wants an example probably of what I said as far as crashing and burning. And not to give names.
Yeah, don't give names to people.
I'm not going to ever do that.
That's one thing we don't do, Max. I'll tell you right now, and you will notice this throughout my channel, whatever I do. I do not bash photographers. Nope. I mean, we sometimes have little inside jokes that we say, but I do not call people out because that's not cool. I mean, I'm just, you know, whatever. So no names.
Yeah, but just basically throwing someone in, trying to, okay, he's typically a landscape or a street photographer, and then trying to get him to teach Flash, you know, is probably the wrong idea. And believe it or not, I have seen that happen. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Seth knows what I'm talking about. Daniel might know what I'm talking about, but it was a unique experience. So you have to kind of,
right.
To your
and the thing is, and here's the thing. So this I think comes from experience and burning. I mean, I've fucked up. Sorry, Mom. I've screwed up many jobs in my life. I mean, in many shoots, I have messed up many times. But generally what you end up learning is this. Like, let's say, for instance, somebody was like, Daniel, we want you to teach a class on blah, blah. And it was something I had an idea about how to do, but I didn't really do regularly. I would go, okay. And then I would spend a week or more doing that thing over and over again to make sure I really knew I was in a situation where I was much younger. I don't know if I've ever told the story in this show, but one of the very first jobs I ever got, I felt so cool that I was able to do this job. I got hired. It was actually, I'll start the whole thing over. So I had reached out to a bunch of photographers as to get job work as a photo assistant. And this one guy called me on the phone, and he's like, "Oh, Daniel Horn, you know, do you you're looking to be a photo assistant?" And I just, being young and cocky, I was like, "Well, actually, I'm looking to be a photographer." Like, that's literally what I said. And then he said to me, "Oh, well, I actually run a design company. Maybe I'll hire you for some stuff as well." And I assisted for the guy first, and then he sent me out on this job. And it was like my first kind of big-ish job that wasn't just like somebody's portrait. And I was photographing this doctor for a magazine article. And I went there and I shot the film and I delivered it. You know, and then back then, a lot of times with magazines too, like you just drop the film off at the lab and they pick it up. Like, you don't even see the film, they just take it. And he calls me on the phone and he goes, "Daniel, I got your film, and this might be the worst photo I've ever seen in my life." And he said, "We go to print in 3 days. I don't care what you do, get that doctor in front of your lens again and fix it." And I just literally, I went out and reshot it. And it was terrible. I mean, I went and looked at the film first, so I knew, you know, he pointed out what was wrong. It was amateur, stupid mistakes that I should have never made, but I went in super confident, not really having done exactly that thing before. So I basically set up my lights and did a bunch of test shoots and stuff. And then I got the doctor on the phone and I made up some excuse, the lab room, the film, whatever. I said to him, I got him in his office again with this time like half the amount of time I had before, because of course he didn't want to be photographed. And I got a great shot, and it was in the magazine. And then that ended up being a regular client for me. Luckily, because that guy was a photographer, he actually understood like shit can happen, and he gave me another chance. But like, yeah, I mean, just not being prepared screwed me up, and that's something that can happen. And I think it's same thing with teaching. You get hired to teach a class and you've never done it before, but you think, I know how to do this. You can screw it up, you know?
Well, that's, you know, and I that's kind of what I do on a daily basis. It's almost, I mean, you know, when I was in college, I was a classic guitar minor. And I talked to my teacher, and after he performed, and I was like, "So how many mistakes did you make that night?" And he was like, "Oh, enough to fill a nice small song," you know, and like, you'd never know it. But for me, and, you know, representing, you know, Sony and our mirrorless technology, it's kind of like one day you'll be teaching video, one day you'll be teaching, you know, lighting or a portrait class, something like that. So certain things can kind of, I mean, I do make mistakes and I own up to it. I think all of us do. I think that's where you learn. You know, you get a lot of you know, you don't truly succeed until you fail, you know. And I've done enough miserably, like, I think, and honestly, I bust my own balls, I think, more than anybody. I mean, I always have my failures going in my head, probably back through most of my career, most of my life. And it's, you just, you try to learn from them, but you also have to just, go on. I mean, I got in a really awful car accident in September of 1997, late September, and almost killed somebody, including myself. And then I was forced to get behind the wheel again, a week and a half later. I mean, it's just, you just have to get back in there. I mean, you're not going to do anything just resting on your laurels and be feeling sorry for yourself, or, oh, what if I did this? What if I did that? I mean, if you don't give it a shot, I mean, and then especially like with these teleconferences, like I'm much more of a people, just like, I mean, I like being around people, talking to a camera like Big Brother, it's interesting. So I'm putting that lightly. But the more we've done over the past few weeks, my team and I mean, it's gotten a lot easier, and, you get more comfortable with it, but you just kind of can't succeed without failing, man. And I'm sure we've done a lot.
No, it's true. And I think that's really the thing. That's why I'm always like, keep shooting, keep developing, because you will screw up. But also, I think that it comes down to how you started, where something make fun of me, say I'm not humble. I think that screwing up humbles you over time. But it's good to be cocky, because if you're not cocky in the beginning, you won't succeed at all, because you need to be. I mean, people, when I said I wanted to be a photographer, I was in high school and I was like, I'm going to be a photographer, and everybody, parents, teachers, except for my photo teacher, friends of family, whatever, they're all like, that's a hobby, don't do that. Or and then later, once they saw I was more serious, they were like, oh, you mean like a wedding thing on the weekend? No, I want to shoot for magazines and advertising. And they were just like, they couldn't even fathom that. I mean, the world was different than I think now, because now with YouTube and also so people kind of understand that shit better. But back then it was like they'd never heard of I mean, obviously people knew photos came from somewhere, but like, they didn't know anybody that shot like for the Macy's catalog or an advertisement. We didn't, those people were like mysterious to us. But I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I figured it out, and I stuck with it, and that's basically how I did it.
Well, I think in regards to our relationship, I mean, in college, I had a professor who's a mentor of mine. His name was Dr. Stan Sachs. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he became my mentor and is really one of my best friends. But the first day of class, he said to me, or to everybody in the class, he was like, I have power over you. I have power over everyone in this room. And you know why? It's like, because I don't know your fucking names. And I made that goal, is like, he's going to know my name. And I think even with you, because you had an intimidating personality there at Adorama too. Like, I want to get in this guy's head and, be for whatever purposes. I mean, it was a challenge, but it was something that, you want to just keep beating at the door. I mean, I was the past, what was it, 4 or 5 months ago, it seems like a lifetime ago. I mean, I was invited to go cover the U.S. women's national team, the soccer team, for international markets, because I do some freelance work for international and publications and Deutsche Welle Television and Der Spiegel and some of the other guys. And it was, you get there and like they have everyone from all these other markets there, and they hate New York. They hate New York photography. They hate everything about it, because you just step over each other. And if you're not, if you're not aggressive, you're just going to get run the hell over. I mean, that's the end of the story. There are a million other people that want your job. There are a million people that want to do what you do, and they want the shot. So I got there extra early because I lived 10 minutes away from Newark Airport, and I got my gear set up. I was in the sun for like 3 hours just waiting for this plane to get there. And but by that time, I mean, everyone was coming in. And actually a guy from Inside Edition came up to me and he was like, hey, I just need to get a few quick shots. Is it all right if I spot next to you? And I had no problem moving some of my stuff, but I mean, I knew right then, I'm like, this guy's going to owe me a favor. So if I ever run into him again, I'm going to, I know I'm going to have, someone's going to owe me something if I need it. So, I mean, I don't mind, but the guy from Washington, DC, I forget what, I think it was the Washington Post talked to me. He's like, do you shoot up here very often? He saw me do that. He was like, yeah, I shoot from you. He's like, no one in New York does that. Like, no one offers to help anybody. It's like, it is dog eat dog. And I it roughens you up a little bit, but I think that's for the betterment. That's good.
Yeah, that's actually interesting too, which is unfortunate that there are certain types of photography where that is the case,
Sure.
and that kind of like media, and that's very unfortunate, because luckily for me, with the type of stuff that I've always done, photographers are generally super helpful. I mean, I've had, amazing photographers that I worked for as an assistant that then, helped me out with equipment, or even sent me jobs that were like too small for them to do. And then coming up, other people that grew with me as photographers, we shared equipment, we helped each other. And I think that I was very fortunate there. Like I didn't get a lot of backstabby. Like literally I came up in an environment where people shared studios with other photographers and they were kind of in competition with each other, but they weren't. They were all friends and they shared the studio, and sometimes they got a job, sometimes other people got the job. And that was the way it was. And luckily that kind of helped shape my career, I guess. If I had gone the other way, I might be more like, oh, get away from me, you scumbags. But I wasn't like that, you know. I mean, I had photographers that taught me, you know. I mean, I worked for the occasional photographer. Seth mentioned when he was talking to Joe, because I told him some stories where photographers flew in and they were just jerks, you know. But 90% of them were awesome. They wanted to help the assistants. They wanted to help you learn, and because of that, that's, you know, I give back, you know, because that's how I was taught. So.
Yeah, but I think you're one. I don't know. I think it's still, the market's a little bit iffy in that regard. I see people try to, you know, I don't know. I'm on the other side, so it's a little bit difficult to kind of just minimize it. But I mean, certainly, I mean, I think you're at the point now though where people recognize you. So, you know, it's for everyone else that's underneath. It's kind of like, you know, you're always just try to, you know, step on the shoulder of giants a little bit. You know, whatever ways you can do.
No, it's true, and people do things. I mean, I definitely have been. I mean. Well, like I've definitely been like underbid, you know, and stuff like that, but not by people that I knew. You know, it was always somebody that like, you know, that they, you know, it wasn't like a person like me and you were friends, and like I'm like, oh, I'm bidding on this job for Macy's, and then I found out a week later that like you sent your portfolio and it was like, I'll do it for 10% less. Like that doesn't really happen. Usually those people are like outside people that ended up get pushed out because the photographers have to stick together. You know, it's like it's funny because it does happen. I mean, clients will sometimes pick somebody based on price. And if people are willing to basically undercut people ruthlessly, thinking they're eventually going to make more money, you won't. I mean, you know, obviously charge whatever you think is fair, but at the same time, know that like if somebody's like, oh, do this job for half price because then in the future I'll give you more. No, they won't. Because you're exactly always seen as a half price photographer once you do that. Now, giving somebody a discount later, once they're already an established client for one thing, maybe. You know, doing something for charity, yes. But random person that's just like, hey, you know what, right now we only have this budget, but in the future, you know, no. Or just accept it at the rate they're giving you and be done with it. Don't think they're really going to give you more money later. That's just never the case. I can't ever, I've never seen that happen, ever.
True. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's the wild, wild west. Or maybe not, you know, out there just kind of getting gigs. And hey, by the way, I wanted to say when Seth was talking to Joe yesterday, Annie was trying very unsuccessfully to read my kids a storybook. It did not work out very well. I felt very bad for her because my kids were just, it was bedlam. So they were, she was like, oh yeah, Joe's in the next room with Seth. And I'm like, and I'm sitting here trying to wrangle my two kids and, you know, trying to get them to read a book. It just didn't help out. So I thought that was pretty funny. Good juxtaposition there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? There's like all kinds of weird. Let's see. So, oh yeah, well, yes, I do. I have my fairy lights because these are actually. I was told that all influencers on Twitch had to have fairy lights, so I got them for my Twitch channel.
That's a joke, right? Are you kidding me?
No, it's true. Well, I mean, Seth was because what happened was Seth was like, I'm doing something badass because everybody on Twitch is just a bunch of people with fairy lights behind them. So, of course, I had to do that. Yeah.
Seth, man, I saw Seth set up for a freaking business call, and I'm sitting there in a bathrobe in my sweatpants, and he's sitting there with a beauty dish on his grill and freaking gelled lights behind him. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I felt so.
He's always camera ready, man.
Yeah, and I'll be on with him on Monday, so I better do something because he's he brings it every one of these things he brings. I'm serious. I was like, man, he is not a bad looking guy.
Yeah, no, he's not bad looking. Someone starting out the first year of business, what would you recommend for price? Okay, so I cannot tell you what to charge. The reason why is because what you charge will vary from market to market. What I would do is try to figure out as best you can what other people are charging and charge that. It doesn't matter. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter how much experience you have, but on some level it doesn't. Depending on the type of work you do, if you've been doing it for 1 year, you've been doing it for 10 years, the photographers get paid by the product, not by how long they've been doing it or how expensive their camera is. If somebody hires me, if a tiny company making this mug that's going to make 500 mugs hires me to make a photo for it, they're not going to pay me what a huge company that's making 20,000 mugs will pay me. That's really what you're dealing with. And that some people find that to be weird. They'll be like, well, what do you charge per day? If I'm shooting for a large company that's international, I'm going to charge a lot more because that photo makes them more money. That's the part of it that you're dealing with. So what to charge, it really depends. If you're unsure of yourself about charging, then you probably shouldn't charge at all and just, do stuff for free or trades or charity. Otherwise look at your market and try to charge basically what people at your equivalent skill set, not necessarily time in game, are charging. It's funny that it kind of comes up. I'm on this Facebook group for people that do art, drawing for fantasy stuff, like, because I'm a geek. And somebody posted, they're like, I don't understand, people are charging too little for their sketches. I've been doing this for 6 years and I charge this and I'm getting no work. And I looked at it and I go, okay, so he put a post on Facebook. There's no picture in his post. I click on his profile. It goes to his profile. I scroll down a bit. It's all the memes and shit that he's been posting from all over. I see none of his work. If you hit info and go, there's a link to his work, but right away I see no work. So I wrote back and I said, listen, guy, I'm not an artist in that sense, but I've been a photographer my whole career. I can tell you what, the amount of time you've been doing this and what kind of pencils you have makes no difference. The fact that you're saying you're looking for work, but you're not showing any work, and then the first thing I click on is your face, I don't see any work. That's probably why you're not getting commissions. And that's the reason why. I mean, and then he put a link there, and then he actually, in that thread, he got 2 jobs. So, I mean, it was like, dude, like, make a Facebook page for your art, go on art pages as that Facebook page, put yourself out there, then you can charge, I mean, it's not because of how long you've been doing it.
You're right. Absolutely right. It's about the brand. I mean,
yeah.
And I can't agree with that anymore. I mean, I actually, we go back to like, it's kind of like self boom, 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 kicking yourself. I mean, I struggle with that sometimes too, or I used to, as far as what I charge, because honestly, it's like if I screwed something up or if I wasn't what I live up to, it's like, how can I justify charging that? And usually most of the time the client's like, oh, it's great. But, I think inside, I think I have to be happy with myself. So to kind of even it out, so and not be like, oh, hey, I made this much money off so-and-so or something like that. It really has to be, I mean, I like to be a little bit more conservative with my pricing in a lot of areas, just because I need to be happy with it. And if they hire me back again, hopefully it'll be growth by repetition.
Right. No, that's also true. Like, if, let's say, for instance, you're a headshot photographer in New York City. You could look at, let's say, Peter Hurley, who probably is one of probably charges the most. I mean, I don't know if he charges the most, but he's one of the top headshot photographers.
Yeah.
And then you can look at like people that do them for $100, and you can kind of find your space in the middle. There's ranges, and basically, that's really what you want to do, is figure out where you are and what makes you feel comfortable that you can deliver that level of product. One of the great things about shooting for magazines is they generally have rates, so you don't get to pick, which is kind of good when if you're a magazine photographer, that actually is beneficial. But if you're doing advertising, look at stock, like not penny stock, but real stock. See what they would charge for that kind of usage and figure more, because you're shooting it exclusively for them, so it should be worth more than stock. So you might look at something and be like, oh, well, Getty would charge $1,500 for 6 months usage in print, so I'm going to charge 5 times that, because I'm producing an image that's theirs and they're getting exclusive rights to it. And that's basically how you would do it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I always feel weird. And if you watch any videos, I usually throw out things like, if you're charging $5, because what you charge, I mean, if you're in the middle of the country, let's say the middle of this country, because the middle of the country, we're all over the world. If you're like in the Midwest, you probably can't charge what a New York photographer can charge for the same thing. We also have higher rent. Everybody makes, you have to look at the budgets and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, the rent is
ridiculous.
Sitting there.
Ridiculous. Are you doing any, because I know that you're kind of in the whole gaming thing society. Have you generated any business off of that, like up through cosplay or anything like that? Are you doing any of that, or I'm just curious for me personally?
No, I don't. I mean, no.
You keep it separate?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly. I find that, so there's, I always reference music. So I'll reference music since June's a musician. So Harry Chapin has a song called Mr. Tanner. And if you listen to this song, it's literally about this guy that's a singer. And everybody's like, you're so great at singing. You're so great at singing. You should do it professionally. And then he goes and tries to do it professionally and fails. And like, and it kind of, the lesson there to me is that, like, just because you love something doesn't mean you should do it for a living,
Right.
And, there's a certain drive. So like for me, like, I like gaming. So it's my thing I do that's not about money. So I don't want to connect myself with that at all. So no, I don't really. I mean, Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not.
that's a great point. I mean, I think
Yeah,
looking back, I think I've been able to. I have done everything I've wanted to in life, and I've grown to hate it. But you think professional
yeah,
sports done, rock and roll done. And even some days in photography, it's like you just get burned down sometimes. So you got to be careful what you wish for. And I do talk about that a little bit in my teaching. Like you don't. I mean, if you really really love it, don't do it. Don't work for it. Just don't, because you will
yeah.
learn so much about it that you just don't want to know.
No, and exactly. No matter how good you are at it, because once you do it as a business, then it changes the whole perspective. And not to say that I don't love photography and I do it as a business, but
Mm.
I approach it differently than I would, let's say. I mean, I know that it's a business for me, so it's like for me, uh, everything I do, like I don't just buy a random camera. I always have to think, is this camera going to benefit my business? Even though I would love to just buy random cameras, because who doesn't want to buy random cameras? But it definitely changes it. So yeah, that's my thought there. Also, that's an awesome song to listen to.
Yeah.
And actually, he wrote the song. I love musicians. Like I love listening to musicians talk about how they write songs, because I think it's super interesting. And there's this part of the song where he reads he sings the review that the guy got, and literally that was a review. He was reading the New York Times and he saw a review of a singer and cut it out, and that's what he made create the song based on something that he saw. So it's like that's how I create as a photographer. I see little things, and that's where my images come from. It's like a little thing that you wouldn't think is at all related to photography. That's where the thoughts come from, and that's why I look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a good musician.
Yeah, music and I mean, music is my main love. I mean, music is that's it for me. I mean, and I think my imagery, and just like I think with yours, like when we shoot, you have your certain playlists you stick to. I mean, I'm much the same. I mean, I love just plugging in, getting some going, try to generate mood. But I mean, that's what drives me. I don't really. Although some people don't. I mean, some people just do silence and everything. I mean, even when I'm doing like live demos at Adorama or something like that, I feel out of my element. A, because there are a lot of people there watching, and B, because there is no music. I mean, I think there's certain things that are like my comfort zones, and music for me is always part of it.
Yeah, when we live stream, we can't have music because of copyright.
Yep.
So especially at Adorama.
Yep.
So that is the thing. Although I have found that like this is actually a note of contention that I've had with many people. I very rarely let the subjects pick their music. And
I've never seen you let subjects pick their music.
Yeah, were you there when I almost threw the model out because you tried to change the music?
Yes, so I was there. I was there. We had to calm you down. We had to calm everybody down because he just wanted to kick everybody out. I remember that very well.
Because I literally said, you can do anything you want, just don't mess with the music. And then she just wouldn't stop. And she was like, but can I put on Britney Spears? Whatever the hell she wanted to listen to. It doesn't even matter. It could have even been something I wanted to listen to. It's a bit of a control freak thing. Because also the bigger photographers I ever worked for, the fashion guys, they always set the music. They never ever let them on. But also the reason why I don't do it, and I literally started doing it, getting more control over it when I started shooting musicians. Because what I didn't want was to go into a shoot with a musician and play music that, let's say that they're a hard rock and roll guitarist or whatever, right? I don't want them to show up in my studio and I put on like, I don't know, something like maybe now I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I put on some hard, I think something that they might like, and they might not like it, right? So what I started doing was I would play exactly the opposite. Like if I was shooting a rapper, I'd put on like old school country music. If I was shooting like a pop artist, I'd put on like death metal. And the funny part of it was they almost always would be like, wow, this music is great. And it wasn't what you thought, but they didn't know it. So they didn't go like, oh, play that one again. Or, oh, I hate that artist. Or, oh, I'm better than them. It was so different and obscure for them. So I try to play music the person doesn't know, but suits the theme of the shoot. That's kind of how I do it. And yeah, so I play like abstract, like I'll play like a lot of Patti Smith, like with models, because everybody loves Patti Smith. If you don't love Patti Smith, I don't know who you are, but they don't know who she is because these models are like 18 years old. Dude. They don't.
And I was waiting for you to throw that out because I remember as soon as you'd hit play, Patti Smith would come on.
Patti Smith is the sexiest woman to ever live, and yes, I love you, Patti Smith. If you're out there,
yeah, I know you do. I know you do. I know you do. And I don't.
Yeah. Oh. I lost you. It literally says no signal. I'm not sure if I'm still live. I think I am. Yep. I have to watch to see if Gene disappears because now I'm watching. I think we're still live, guys. We'll find out. Gene disappeared for a second. I'm guessing that his camera battery probably died. Because I know that he's using. Yep, he disappeared. Okay, let's talk shit about Gene while he's gone. Let me look at the comments while we're here. Let's see. Do you ever step out of your comfort zone and shoot something you never did before? Yeah. Oh, battery exhausted. See. Yeah, I do. We can ask Gene too when he comes back. He's back now. So, do you ever step out of your comfort zone and shoot something you never did before?
Yes. All the time.
Yes. Oftentimes it's because we have to, at least for my case. It's something I need to shoot because I'm hired to do it or it's part of something I'm doing. I remember I got this job with this company that I was doing a lot of bridal catalogs at the time, which is so bizarre because I don't, it's like, how do you find any work? Like all of a sudden I was shooting all these bridal catalogs. And this company approached me and they did veils and headbands. And they were like, oh, we want to hire you to do this. And actually, this is a funny pricing thing. So I go into the thing, and I go to meet the owner of the company, we sit down in this room and he's like, this is what we want to do. He's blah, blah, blah. So what would you charge for that? And I literally looked him right in the face and I was like, well, what did the other guy charge? And he just stared at me for a second. There was like 10 seconds of silence. Nobody in the room moved. And all of a sudden he laughed and he was like, he called to his helper, was like, yeah, get the last invoice. Let's see what the other guy charged. And like, he showed it to me. And actually it was less than I would normally have wanted to charge. Wow. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is what you charged last time, but honestly, I'm going to have to charge this. And I literally, with him in front of me, seeing that the other guy charged less, I told him I was going to have to charge more. And he did it. He was like, okay. He's like, we'll hire you for this one season and shoot it at this price, but you better damn well deliver better than what we're getting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will. And I did. And I kept that client for many years. And the funny part is, this is why it's related to that, is that so I go and they start talking to me. They're like, okay, so we didn't really care for the images on the models' heads, so we're going to just shoot them as still lifes. And now I've already committed to do a better job than anybody else has ever done. I got more money. He's agreed to it. Now he's like, you're shooting still life of jewelry, which wasn't really my specialty by any means. And I'm just like, okay. And I did it. And what I actually did was during that first shoot, I convinced them to bring in a model just for a couple of hours because I'm like, you don't really want a still life on your cover. Let me shoot a model for the cover. I swear I can do a better job than the other guy. And I did. And it was just because of my knowledge of how to light the thing and how to do various things that I got. Because his problem was the headband with all the jewels didn't show up well on the picture. And it's because, I don't want to get all technical of it but I was able to get it so that it was nice and sharp and you could see all the detail and it was on that. And then from that point on, we shot on model for most of them. So
that was, wasn't I shooting that with you with I was your DIT for one of those gigs, right?
Yeah, I think you came around one. Yeah.
You were awesome. That was awesome. That was
super fun. Yeah. And it was just a funny thing. Like, it's one of those things that you do when you say, like, like you have to be cocky. Like, yeah, like a lot of people would look at that and see the build that the guy was and be like, okay, I'll charge the same, even though you should be charging more, or go, oh, I'll give you a discount so I get the job. Because I hadn't got the job yet. They were considering me against this last guy they were using. But I also knew that since they were looking into the photographer, there was a problem. It was either the money or it was they didn't like the work. And I looked at the work and it didn't look that good. So I was like, okay, I know what the problem is. I mean, the whole backstory of that is they had used a guy for like a long time and then he moved out of New York and they wanted to shoot it locally. So they brought in this other person for 2 seasons and they did a shitty job basically. So it wasn't like they were getting rid of a guy that had a long time. They had brought in somebody and they just weren't happy with the work. So anyways,
I did a shoot about a year and a half ago that was absolutely terrifying to me because I don't photograph automobiles that much. And a gentleman he's probably the #1 hot rodder in all the world had passed away, and he'd left behind 2 cars that were going to be going to auction, like heavy duty. I mean, just like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know. I mean, he custom built these things, but it was amazing. But I read up on this, so a buddy of mine asked, hey, would you be interested in this job? And then I saw the price tag. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to make it work. You just make it work. So I grabbed a few like Profoto B1Xs, like the biggest damn umbrellas I could find, and I just watched. I watched a lot of videos on how to photograph cars. And I think I can honestly say I didn't really take much from any of them. I just got there and then was able to do it. And then they wanted a family picture of 18 people all at once just around these cars. And
my God.
so I was able to, I mean, it took a while. I mean, it was a 2-day shoot, but it turned out really well. But again, I was absolutely terrified that it wouldn't, because the people were so nice, and I mean, it was a sunny, you know, the sun goes in and out, the clouds. I mean, it really wasn't a picture perfect day for it, like overcast at all. It was just where I had to go out a day before, see where the sun was going to hit first early, and then come over and then just really try to maneuver it so the cars, because obviously with reflections like that, especially off special finishes, I mean, it can just kill you. I mean, it can look flat or it can be blown out. I mean, it was a little bit, I approached it with a lot of trepidation, but again, when you're faced with adversity like that and challenges, you just really, do you step up and do you take it, or do you just walk away and then wonder what could have been? I mean, that's all I got.
And hopefully at that level of production too, you don't fuck up.
No.
Because we talk about screwing
honestly,
up, but yeah.
And I had good assistants there. I had a good assistant there too, so that was very helpful.
Yeah, that's a hell of a task. I mean, shooting cars in general and then shooting huge groups are both really hard to do, but to do it
with
together,
the cars, it's just,
that's awesome.
And one of the cars is white. One of the cars was white. One was almost like black purple. You know, it was just, nice. And purple is the worst. I love purple. It's my favorite color. It's the worst to photograph.
So Paulo is asking, when this quarantine is over, can you ever do flash at night on the street? I could do that. I've actually have done it. I can try to. Oh, Gene, do you have any funny stories? Tell a funny story, Gene, while I find the flash at night on the street shot.
Sure. Do we want to do for failure or success? Okay, let's do success. I was, one of my bigger gigs early on, I think in 2010, I was hired to photograph the German band Rammstein. They had just come back to America. They've been banned in America for 10 years just because of lewd behavior on stage. And I was hired to shoot them for Der Spiegel at Madison Square Garden. And of course, I jumped at the chance. I mean, that'd been awesome. So there's actually a live DVD performance of this gig out there that you can see me in my glory up front with my cameras and stuff. And it was one of the first times I think that I'd really been in a massive pit like that with photographers. And so I approached it with, I know they use a lot of fire, so I wanted to try to get as much fire in as I possibly could, because I know that that's what the publication wanted. And I'm there with my long glass, my short glass, and sure enough, by one of the end, they're ready to do their finale. You get like 3 songs to shoot what you can, and they usher you out or whatever. And I reached over try to get to the stage to get this wonderful picture of this singer named Till Lindemann, and a flame plot goes off behind his head, so it silhouettes his head with this fireball. But little did I know, in front of him, there was going to be another jet, a propane jet, coming off. And as I'm taking this photo, I feel hands, and these guys are in front of me, and they just throw me back into the barricade right before this flame jet just comes right where I was. So I almost got taken out. But it was the picture that they used, but it was scary. But I mean, you know, that's one story I have. I don't know. Is that a good one?
That was good. That was exactly enough the time, because I found it.
Beep.
So this is actually, that was good. Perfect. This is, I mean, it's a little bit of a pop and blur thing, but it gives you at least something to start with. This I shot this photographed this young lady in Las Vegas, and she's a hula hooper. So we photographed her with an LED nice hula hoop, kind of a pop and blur vibe, but outside with flash in the street.
Where am I supposed to be looking on this on the YouTube page? Because I'm trying to find.
No, you don't have to look at it. Somebody just asked. I mean, you can look at it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. If I would do so myself.
Oh, yeah. Way to be humble.
Video, excellent. Well, see, if the video is good, it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, and was that during a WPPI?
It was. Actually, that video and the couple other that we shot during the WPPI was what got Broncolor the next year, because I showed them those to sponsor us to shoot the Elvises, which was probably my favorite thing that I've done in Vegas.
I still was promised. Joe McNally stopped me. You know, I don't know if I was he was like, the first WPPI I went to, Joe and Annie and Jeff Snyder, myself, and I think it was when I was still at Adorama, and we went out to see a Cirque du Soleil show, and every single one of us fell asleep toward the end because we were so damn tired at the MGM. I mean, everybody was, we were just so out. And then he asked me, he's like, hey, you know, Gene, you still like to shoot a lot? I'm like, hell yeah, I like to shoot. He's like, well, I'm going to do Cirque du Soleil. So, I mean, I'll let you know, like, come out. So this is an open call, Joe. If you're still ever going to do Cirque du Soleil, let me know, because I still want to go out there and do it, because we haven't done it yet. So,
I mean, anytime that you can just be near Joe while he's working is worthwhile.
It's amazing, amazing. Well, as a lot of you know, I mean, he photographed my wedding. So, yeah. I mean,
I know, that's pretty awesome.
Remember that? I remember you say, like, wait a minute, did you just ask see if Joe McNally could photograph her wedding? And he said yes.
And he said yes. Holy cow. Yeah,
so, yeah, I don't even know what I was more nervous about getting married or being the subject there, because we did a City Hall thing, and it was incredible. So the August, I think it's the August, or is it the September version of his blog on his website or whatever? That's where you can see any photos if you're interested.
Yeah, look back and see young Gene.
Yeah, it was like before I went downhill. So, but yeah, that was awesome. What else we got here?
Let's see. Oh, you mentioned artist picture on Facebook. I'm just new to social. Do you put your pics up there? And are you concerned about copyright infringement? I do put pictures on there. I am not concerned. I mean, you know what? People are gonna, if they're gonna steal your pictures, they're gonna steal them. Yep. You know, you won't be able to get out there if you don't put your stuff on social. So, you know, if somebody steals my picture and I really feel like, you know, it's a big enough company where I can go after them, then I'll just go after them. Otherwise, it's like, you know, I'm not that worried about it, to be honest with you.
No, personally, without a doubt. And I work, I mean, obviously with our photographer core where I am, and I know a lot of photographers that are, you know, OGs from back in the day, where all their images are now licensed by Getty. And the amount of trouble that a lot of them do have, I mean, I'm not pointing out Getty by any means. I mean, but there are lawsuits going on, you know, because there's no way to track where your images are, how often they're being used, but getting the correct amount of royalties. And it's hard. No, so I totally agree with Daniel. I mean, I think it's the best way. It's a great way to get exposure. People are gauging you monetarily on clicks now. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something that you think is worthwhile, that's sellable, then maybe not put that shot up. I mean, certainly, I'm not saying just put everything on Facebook willy-nilly, but you know, people are going to steal your pictures. That does it. I don't know. I've got a very blasé style about that, because I feel like, I guess if they steal it, then again, use it somewhere very publicly, then you can go after them. And if it's just some idiot stealing it to put on their, well, I shouldn't say idiot, a person taking it, maybe they don't really understand that they shouldn't, or they just put it on a blog or something. I mean, it doesn't hurt me. I mean, I don't worry about it. I also don't make my living selling stock photography, so I guess I'm not less concerned about it. You know, I mean, I think that comes down to it, right? I mean, in fact, for me, it's better if you share my stuff. Like, that's what I want you to do. But for some people, it might not be, you know, like I could see if you were like a portrait photographer and you threw portraits on social and you were afraid that like the person that you hired you know, might take them and make prints when you want them to go through you. I don't know. I don't even know that's the way business works with that kind of stuff for most people. I feel like by the time you would do that, it'd be past the point that you charge them. So let's say that I was a photographer that shot, I don't know, let's say weddings. And, you know, I got in my contract, of course, the rights that I can use the pictures in social. I would wait till everybody in the wedding party ordered all their books and stuff before I started just putting the pictures out where they could just steal them. I guess if that's what I was concerned about. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of a reason why somebody would care beyond advertising, which obviously is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like the world is just like, usually we're getting paid. I mean, again, I'm not a stock photographer, and I don't feel like stock photography is too many people's main source of income anymore. There was a time period where people did make a lot of money on stock. That's all they did. I'm not sure that's the case anymore, but I don't know. I feel like normally I'm getting my money when I'm shooting, you know, and even if it's like residuals, like if they're going to use it for a year, I get all that up front. So it's like, you know, I'm not that worried about it. And usually if that's the case, if somebody's hiring me, let's say to shoot an ad, let's say I'm shooting for again, I'm shooting for this company. I'm shooting for this company a lot. You know, they hire me to shoot a picture of their cup, and I'm going to now get paid for it. And I give them, you know, whatever, exclusive usage or whatever. If I put it somewhere, I'm not going to put the photo. I'll put the ad. That's more beneficial to me anyways. You know, you want to see
the tear sheet. Yeah, absolutely. The tear sheet.
You know, I wouldn't want to just put the picture of the cup. The picture of the cup's nothing to me, So, that's kind of how my business works. So again, everybody's a little different.
That's a good point. Yeah, I actually do a little bit of Shutterstock, or trying. I'm not kind of dipping my finger, toe into it. Just if there's any interest and stuff like that, because of my editorial work. Because some of it I don't have to sign releases on, and and I'm doing it, for my own, with press passes and everything. So that's helped out a little bit.
Yeah, that's different. I mean, if you do things that are sellable like that, then yeah, I guess you would probably be a little bit, more hesitant to put it out right away, or maybe use it later. And again, I think if you're somebody who's selling, let's say, music live concert photos to websites and magazines that use those photos, then you're also, if you're smart, following those people. So if they do take your picture, you're going to see it, and then you just very kindly say to them, oh, who should I send the invoice to? And that's it. You just bill them. Most legit companies will not want to get sued, so they'll literally just pay you. I mean, because oftentimes, I don't want to say a mistake like oh, oops, but sometimes just somebody does something without really thinking. They do have budget for photos, so they will pay you if you call them out on it. Most times, if they're legit. If there's some small crappy thing and you don't want them to have it, then you just make them take it down. I mean, I guess that's my thought there. But again, it's not something I really deal with, so I'm still far from an expert. I think the only time I ever had that happen to me, so I'll tell this probably last issue story, is it never ends. Is I was shooting for this company. They were a modeling agency. They were a commercial modeling agency, and they had arranged that they were like paying me basically as like a chunk of cash for a day's work. So they hired me as a day rate, versus normally with modeling agencies, the model pays you directly. But in this case, I was doing it this way. It was a lot of kids and stuff. But anyways, so they actually owed me a whole bunch of money. But in my contract, as always, my bill always says no rights granted until payment in full. So they stopped paying me. They literally, they were like, we're having trouble and blah, blah. And basically, like they were like a month behind. And I looked and I was like, you owe me, thousands of dollars, and you're using these photos. You need to either take them down or pay me. And they were like, well, blah, blah, blah. And I just screenshotted every place they used it. And I talked to my friend, I did a quick consult with a lawyer. I had a very good, case, and it was like a per image thing. And I was like, look, here's the basic payment per image that you would have to pay me if we end up going to court on this. And here's what you owe me. So, and in the end, they just paid me. Of course, I lost the client, but I didn't want them anymore anyways. They stopped paying me. It's like people get so nervous to like go after clients when they stop paying you or whatever, because I'll lose the client. If they're not paying you, they're not really your clients, So yeah, anyways, that's my one copyright thing that I ever had to use it. Everything else, I always have been fine. Usually I'm hired by a client, and if there's an issue, they'll go after them,
And I get honestly, that leads to a probably bigger point that we probably won't be able to touch too much on. But I mean, I think it's always great to have a partner or something that can take care of a lot of your business logistics versus being your one-man band. Because I'm almost terrible with following up with billing and some rights, and it destroys my process just a little bit. But I mean, I can think of, there's so many couples out there that are photography, one's a photographer and then one takes care of the business side, and it works so well together because they can cover each other's backs, and one's covering bases. And I just think it's so beneficial because it can drive you a little bit nutty, or someone like myself who isn't really a numbers guy, to kind of keep up with a lot of that, the accounting issues and then the licensing and contracts.
That's 100% true. And actually, what's funny, there's another story. So I used to work for this one photographer and did a lot of big advertising stuff. And his wife, was the business end of it. Like, she did the billing, all the other stuff. And what he would do is, if we were on a job, and every contract that you're going to have with an estimate that you're going to have with an advertising client, especially, will have like a buffer. It'll say something like variance of 10%. Okay, blah blah. So basically, they're signing off on this, that if you have to charge them up to 10% more, it's fine. Like, they're going to pay it, right? Versus the estimate. But if it goes over that, obviously there has to be a quick negotiation. So like, we were shooting this job once, and it was a very big job, and they added a shot, which would have actually shot the price up a lot. And what he did was, he was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And he started having us work on it. And then he went over, picked up his cell phone, and he called, his wife. And then she then called the advertising company and negotiated the extra monies while he was working. So he didn't have to like stop and have this like confrontation with the art director. He could just do the job. He assumed that it would get taken care of, and it was. And that is why it's good to have a person do that. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have so there are agents, there are photography agencies. I do not have an agent. I've had agents at different periods of my career, and I didn't feel like they did much for me. They work for some people. Um, I don't know if you've ever had an agent, Gene, for your
Yeah,
photography.
no, I mean, good luck. I don't know. I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah,
Real
because
tricky.
generally they take a big chunk of your house accounts. So
Yeah.
like, so let's say I have like 5, 6 catalogs or advertising companies I'm working for, and then an agent recruit. And of course, they don't want you if you don't have any house accounts. You know, they're an agent that will bring you in when you have no accounts is stupid because they want your house accounts.
Mhm.
So they come in and they're like, okay, well, we'll get work for you and we get 20%, but we also get 10% of all, you know, they get less of that of your house accounts. So it's like you get in there and all of a sudden, like 6 months, 8 months into it, it's like they haven't got you any new work, but now you're making 10% less because they're taking your damn house accounts. So it's a tricky thing. Although I have had people have a lot of success with it, but not me. It hasn't worked for me so much. So I'm not going to blast agents. I think, oh, the stream is really fuzzy, but I don't know why that is.
You look.
So it may work not work for you. I would look into the agent, see what photographers they have, see how successful, maybe even reach out to those photographers. You know, most people are pretty cool. I have had an amazing experience reaching out to photographers when I was just doing this as a photographer and asking them. You know, I mean, granted, if you're shooting for, let's say, a company or they're shooting for a company and you're trying to take their job, they're not going to give you any information. But like, if they're with an agent, you could just be like, hey, you know what? This agent is recruiting me. What do you guys think? And then see what they say.
No, yeah, I mean, I just think it's interesting now, as far as from an agency standpoint, the type of caliber, what exactly they're looking for. I mean, I think that, what is sellable at this point. Like, I don't know if middle-aged white guys are the selling thing right now, it's just, I say this a lot during when I teach. I'm like, if you're a female creative or a person of color and anything, and you're not getting gigs, I think that's an issue, because this is certainly the most timing. I've lost jobs just due to that. And and they're pretty open about it too. I mean, there was one company, because I wasn't a woman, they was, that's all they wanted to hire right now. And, and I get it. I mean, I think it's, it's absolutely, I think it's payback, for years and years of just what's been going on. But at the same time, I mean, it's not really helpful to us, but from an agency standpoint, like, who are they going to pick up? Because there's such a big pool of photographers right now, like who's young and who's hot right now. I mean, I've had some kids come up, who are doing Vogue stuff in Europe. The stuff looks great, and I mean, there's like, oh, I'm 18, by the way, and, they start out doing BTS videos, and then all of a sudden they're thrust into the spotlight by doing premiere web content and then print. And then it's just like, now I'm looking for representation, or I'm looking for a camera company to pick me up, so it's just like there's so many people now that are just following, that are trying desperately to break down the doors to get, either representation, or a fair representation at that, which is almost unheard of, or just to get representation so that they can get some type of pedigree. And it's just not, it's just, a lot of the stuff just isn't sellable anymore. So I think it does come now, the people that, oh, I had no idea who the photographers even look like. Like, if you show me iconic photographs, I mean, a lot of the times I won't know who the hell the person is. I mean, there was a photographer that's on our roster for Sony named Brian Smith, who's amazing. I mean, he's shot everybody. He's incredible. And his wife, Faja, they work together in the business side. She's amazing. They're great, great people, live in Miami. But he ran into me and once, and he was like, you know who you look like? I'm like, no. He's like, I want to take your picture. You look exactly like Ansel Adams. I was like, what? Like, I don't even know what Ansel Adams looks like, but I was like, I don't even know if I was a compliment. I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's like, we should do a shoot where I'm going to take you out to Yosemite and we're going to recreate a shot or something. Maybe we'll do it for Sony. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, can I take your picture too? I mean, it's just like, it's kind of strange to me. So like, a lot of these guys, like, I don't even know who they are. They'll come into the store. I mean, Mick Rock, for example, he's hard to miss just because he dresses like you think, the whole, 70s, 80s punk New York vibe, and, yeah, really blistering, and stuff like that. But I think I ran into Mark Seliger once. Like, I didn't even really know what he looked like. I mean, if you show me some of these other guys, like Anton Corbijn, I know who, him, some of the guys that I really follow. Or, I mean, I bet if I was sitting at a bar and Steve McCurry was just sitting 3 seats down, like, I probably wouldn't know. But I mean, his images.
Yeah.
So, But I think now it is, the photographer is the brand now. Like we have a kid, Chris Burkhardt, who is off the rails, like every man wants to be him, everyone wants to be with him, type of James Bondish type journeyman adventure photographer type thing. And I mean, everywhere he goes, I mean, for us, I mean, I see him signing lenses, cameras, babies, whatever they throw at him. I mean, I think, he's a brand and he has a team and he's built himself up appropriately to kind of sell himself like that, so that, he can kind of transcend that mark. So I think that's, I mean, maybe that's what you got to do nowadays to get representation or just be sellable in that degree.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a different thing than what I was talking about too. It's like you are right on to a certain level, a brand, especially today, even more so than ever, right? So there's the idea of being picked up to, let's say, do videos or to do speeches at conferences and that type of stuff. That's a little different than an agent that gets you jobs doing work. Like the agent I'm talking about is somebody who would go to like Macy's. I mentioned Macy's a lot.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what I mean. So no, it's good that you brought that up, because that's, this tells two different people hear the same word and see it two different ways. And yeah, I think an agent like that is a whole different thing. Insofar as, and I don't want to get into this too deeply because people get hot. I get what you're saying about the female, blah, blah. And I think what you have to look at, guys, is this. It's not that they're like, we don't want you because you're a white guy. It's that we have 10 white guys. We want to add more people to our stable. We want to add some diversity.
Exactly.
That's a big difference. It's not like there's nobody there and they're just like, not you.
Yeah,
it's a whole different world. So it's not like that. I do get it. I mean, and of course, obviously I am an old white guy. So like, I would love that they'd be like, we only want old guys. But I don't even look at it as payback. I look at it as they're just trying to add, something too. And I don't think anybody's firing the old white guys to bring in these other people. It's just that when they're bringing in other people, they're looking to, and a good example would be what Nikon did a couple of years ago, I think now, where they like announced all these photographers and there wasn't a single person that wasn't like an old white guy, or well, I don't know if they're all white, but basically, I mean, I'm sure some were Japanese or whatever, but it was just like, well, what the hell? There's no women that qualify. And they were just like, yeah, there probably are, but let's say 1,000 people signed up to or submitted, maybe only 50 of them were women. So they were a small thing. So you got to kind of think about it. And they did change, and they added some women because they got some, because you have to think about it like this. Exactly what you're saying with this Chris guy, like people, the idea from the camera companies, they want to sell the idea that you can be this person, So it's like, who do you want to be? And when you're looking at it and you're just like, well, I'm a 22-year-old female, I don't want to be Jean. So I got to see what I want. So I totally.
But do you want to be with Jean?
Yes, I do. So yeah, I think that's basically that's the type of stuff that I think is going on. Maybe we're seeing a lot more. You do look a little bit like Ansel Adams though, and also Brian Smith is pretty awesome. So I would totally get photographed by him anytime.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a Florida good guy. He was down there, well, I guess he maybe still is down in Florida.
Yes,
he was down. I was down there. We never really crossed paths, but I knew of him. He was a great magazine photographer. So if you guys don't know Brian Smith, check him out.
Definitely, and he's just an amazing human being, and his wife. I mean, they're just great people. They remind me of, they're like Sony's version of Joe and Annie.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I met him once or twice, like just kind of in passing, but I didn't know him when we were both kind of in Florida. But he's a really great photographer and a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So when am I going to bring the drone out? Yes, it's on my plan. Since I'm doing videos I say almost because I will miss a day eventually. Every day, and we're gonna do some drone flights, because why not? People don't need to just stare at my face. You have a beer. Nice.
That's funny. I like that. I did a beer too.
Yeah. I know beer for me, unfortunately. I have coffee currently. I actually, we went out and they're saying to buy 2 weeks worth of food at a time. And that's like, I have a Mini Cooper. Like I can only fit so much stuff in my Mini Cooper. So I had to
That's right. You've got that many.
No beer for me. I didn't have space for it.
No, but don't you have delivery up there? I mean, honestly, I've been getting delivery service. I don't like to go out to stores right now, so I'm kind of, I'm touchy about that. So I'll like leave the stuff on my porch for like hours and pray no one takes it before I bring it in the house, or I bleach my bottles and whatever. So
yeah, this is what you get for having all your friends being like in the cities, because you guys all have that and I don't. You're like, what if just have it delivered? Nobody's delivering anything to my house. UPS doesn't even want to come.
I think that's the only reason people have not started really riding crazy over here, is just because it's like, oh, I can still get my alcohol fix on, and especially those of us that have kids. I mean, you're just like, I swear, I do not drink normally that much, but it is around here right now. It's just like, you got to settle down sometime or when you hit a wall. So it's tough. So
yeah, no, I agree. So
stay responsible, folks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like we want to try to go on. I mean, I don't normally drink a lot of beer, so for me, it wasn't anything yeah, I think that what we want to do is, and I always try to say this, is try to just be positive. And I'm going to definitely do more of these guys. So yes, I'm not going anywhere, unfortunately. So I am going to be bringing on more people to talk to, besides Gene, maybe even Gene again, depending on how long this goes, or if Gene's the only person that'll talk to me. It might be that case. Certainly, Seth, I know that there's been requests for certain female that I work with to do a live stream. We'll see if we can get her to do it.
Nice.
So we'll see if we can do that. I don't know what exactly you'll ask her. Don't be creeps. Because you will be blocked.
You're exactly right. I mean, we haven't even talked about that, about like when doing workshops. I mean, how many the creep shows that just keep showing up. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
That'll be good for Seth's. When are you going to be on Seth's thing? That'll be a Seth
5 o'clock. We could talk about that. 5 o'clock on Monday on Adorama's Facebook feed. Well, we could talk about that. That'd be great.
Yeah. Seth loves to talk about creeps and that kind of stuff. I try to stay positive. I mean, I know that Daniel has a dark side that you guys don't see, but my public face is very. No, it's funny because Mark Wallace was saying that he was talking to somebody and he was like, I was talking to a model I work with, and I'm like, I'd love to do a shoot. And she's like, yeah, let's do a video. And he was like, no, just a shoot, because it's a much different thing when you're doing a video versus doing an actual photo shoot. Sure. There's this like, because when I get a model, like if I'm shooting with somebody just for fun, like let's say that, Sharina or Erica or Marissa, one of those girls come by and they're just like, let's just shoot, or Cadence. If we're making a video, I have to think to myself, well, all right, what's teachable here? What's allowable on Adorama? What's whatever. If they just show up and I have a camera and they have clothes and we just shoot, it's a much different thing. And that's something I had to learn, was that I can't make everything about the videos, which are now kind of basically my main job. When I was shooting fashion, like as for a living, I did that because we all constantly tested. Models would always be coming in and you would just shoot them because you needed to try out new models. So you were always just messing around. But now, like, it's a little different for me since I'm out in the studio every day and whatever. So I do like to take time just to shoot. And I think that's important, no matter what you're doing, even if you're trying to produce it for a portfolio or you're doing it for clients, whatever, that you should shoot and just try to enjoy it. I think it's super important.
No doubt. I mean, it's...
Then
it doesn't become fun, and then it just stays work, and it isn't fun.
Yeah. So I put out a challenge yesterday. Is that when I did that? Gene, you can take part.
What's this?
Light bulb. This is a light bulb. This is a crappy LED light bulb.
Okay.
Hopefully you have a real light bulb. There was a time that I said I would never use LED lights in my house, and I'm about 60% there now. This is a crappy one though. It did die in less than 10 years, so they were lying. One light bulb, one drinking container, make a photo, and we're going to throw them up somewhere. I guess Facebook. Did I say where? I think Facebook, Instagram, tag me, if we're going to. So let's see what you can do, Gene. You're an expert in one light bulb shooting, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do it all the time. Yep. Sure thing, man. Yeah, I'll take that challenge. So what are we doing?
So, what are we going to do? And you can post it. Yeah, that's I guess by next week. I'm pretty loose.
We got time.
We're not going anywhere. Let's see. Try to miss a day. I will try not to miss a day. Let's see. Diversity is good. Yeah, I agree. One thing I always say too, which is actually funny, because I think I end up butting heads with Seth a little bit about this sometimes, because he oftentimes makes fun of like the young guys. But see, the thing is that when you are this young guy and you're in your tight sweatpants or whatever, and you got your Instagram followers, those guys and girls are where the real creativity comes from. I was actually just watching this thing. I'm going to mention music again, because I did a lot. I was watching this little clip of John Prine, and he's doing a concert, and he's introducing a song, and he goes, this is a song that I wrote because I got this gig, and I was like, this was like my third week of doing it, and I knew that guy was going to be sitting it was at a bar. I knew that same guy was going to be sitting there again, and he needed to hear a new song. And he's like, so I was on my way to the gig, and I wrote this song. You know, so he's telling the story, and then he like goes down to start playing, and he looks up and he goes, "Man, I wish I could still do that." And that's the thing, right? Like when you're young and just starting, you're so friggin' creative, like just pouring out of your brain.
Hungry. You're just so hungry. You don't have a lot of outside interference. You can afford to live on the streets. You can stay out all night. You've got, I mean, the fortitude is endless.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's the thing. When you're new to something, that's what I usually consider young. You might be physically older, but like the more you do, the more experience you get, and the more capable you are of doing various things, especially technically. But a lot of times you become less kind of creative. I mean, I'd say it like that, but like you when you're young, you're just like, 'cause you don't know it can't happen. You do it because you just think, I'm just gonna do this.
Right.
Like you have no idea. Now, like you could show me things and I'll be like, oh, that doesn't work like that. You know what though? Somebody young and new to it will show me that it can work like that. And that's amazing. I love that. That's why I love when somebody just shouts out something out when we're doing a live demo. They're like, what if you do this? I don't know. Let's see. Let's do it. I mean, I have an idea of what will happen, but let's see.
And with your demos, that was the best part with the interaction. I mean, it wasn't a preachy. It was like, well, I don't know. Let's try it. Let's give it a shot. See what happens.
Yeah. To me, I'm like,
see what sticks.
Exactly. And I think too, that I want people to understand that there's time and a place, and you should be able to experiment. I mean, why not? I mean, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that's not going to work, but let's do it. And I'll show you why.
Right.
I won't just say no, because I feel like it's just not the way to do it. Try it. This is why we're here. And another thing Mark said, well, I get a lot of things from Mark. Mark Wallace is amazing if you guys don't follow him. He said something that I actually mentioned a while back too. People often will say, like, I have this light bulb and this cup. What will happen if I use them together? Well, you have them. Use them. It's like nothing. Creating bad photos is just what we do. That's how we learn. Just make stuff, and it'll start to come through.
Can't agree more.
Okay, so you two sound like two oldies from the Muppets. Listen, I do have a blanket on my legs.
I know you do. Where's your Muppet though? Where's your Muppet? I don't have one. So
yeah, we gotta get you one. It's funny you say that, but yeah, exactly. We just, we are two old guys. What can we say?
We look like the two guys in the theater. Is that where they're in the theater going?
We're down there making fun of them.
I feel like
I think that's true. It's funny people say that, when you joke about that. But the thing about those guys, I'm gonna get all philosophical because you brought this up as a joke, is that they're always criticizing but never offering a solution. And that's
true.
I feel like what we want to do. Had a chicken. What you really want to do is, and this is what I'm saying, like, I mean, as much as I would say, the worst thing you can do is be like, oh, I'm trying to do this and the influencers are taking my job, or the young people are taking my job, or whatever. That's just not the right attitude to have. And that's kind of what I was talking about with that artist. It's like, if you're not working, it's not because that other guy is charging less or that other guy is wearing tight pants or whatever. It's because it's because it's something you're doing. The work is out there. And you need to take responsibility for it. If you really want it, you'll get work. You just have to put this. I mean, obviously you have to have talent. If you're terrible, maybe not. Although I've seen some pretty terrible photographers get hired. So you just have to put your work in front of somebody that wants it. You can't be like, okay, I'm just starting out. And the classic story of that, I say this all the time. The first time I ever showed my portfolio to a fashion agency in Miami, it was a modeling agency. I was looking to shoot models. I showed the guy my book. He basically flipped through it, threw it down on the table, and he looked at me and said, "Why did you waste my time?" And he got up and walked out. and I had spent all this time building no constructive criticism, no, you should do this, no, that. Why did you waste my time? And didn't even let me answer because he got up and left. So, then I'm like sitting in this like conference room with this modeling agency by myself. I got up and left. And then I thought, well, why did I waste his time? This is the top modeling agency in Miami, and I'm new, and maybe my work isn't exactly what. So what did I do? As I was walking out, I grabbed some comp cards off the wall. I went to a couple of modeling agencies. I saw what they had. I saw my work wasn't what they were using. Mm-hmm. Then I looked at all the modeling agencies and I said, okay, I'm going to start shooting. Let me go to the smaller ones first, because maybe my work isn't at this level yet, because why should he give me a chance? He's here and I'm here. You got to learn that. And that's where like you get a little humble,
Wow. I don't think you ever told me that story either.
Yeah, no, it's classic. And Yeah, it really puts it in perspective. And that's why, yeah, I don't think I ever mentioned that story except for when I'm doing critiques. And we usually don't stream those because I want people to understand that even if you think I'm being harsh to you, you're sitting here with something you're trying to do in a safe space. When you're actually trying to get work and somebody does that, it's like, yeah, like why did I just quit my job and move here to be a photographer to be told like I wasted their time with a year's worth of work building this portfolio?
For sure.
You know, but you know, I stuck around because I'm tenacious, I guess.
Yes, you are. You are.
Tenacious will make it happen.
Mm-hmm. So what about these these bold pictures? They're asking about where to
we have to
post
have a hashtag.
Yeah.
You can just tag me, or tag me. That's what it's called, right? When you put your
Yep.
Tag me. Like tag it in the description. Don't tag it on the photo, because when you do that, it goes into my timeline. So I ended up taking those out because then otherwise my timeline's full of.
Oh, so Facebook. Yep.
Yeah, on Facebook. Let's do it on Facebook, I guess, or Instagram, wherever you want. I'm social. Clearly, I did not think this out.
Yeah.
I literally made it up on the spot. Yeah, but I would just put it on whatever social you want and tag me. Yeah, no mortgage, no bonus, like 401k. It's true. When you're younger, you have less to lose. That's the other thing too. That's a good lesson to learn. If you are out there and you're like in your 20s, let's say, and you're just like, I don't know, do it now. You might think you have a lot, you have nothing. It's like when you start to get like later in life and you have a family and you have like all this stuff, that's when it's much more risky for you to take the risk. I thought like when I would think I was 24 maybe when I like quit my last actual job and just moved, because I thought in my head, worst case scenario, I end up with nothing. I sell my car to get home and I live with my parents' basement for a year to get myself back on my feet. At 47, I am not living in my parents' basement. They will not let me live there. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't see my parents letting me bring my kids and my wife back home.
But I miss the Florida weather. Sometimes, I definitely enjoed myself when I lived in Florida. When I was there, especially because I was younger then, and much, I hated it. Like, I was, that was terrible. But, when you look, everything is better through hindsight, right? It was nice, and I met some amazing people in Florida. I got, people like, Eric Taylor is a great photographer. Robin Basil, makeup artist I work with a lot. These people were amazing. I would not be anywhere near where I am if I didn't have great friends and awesome artists that I worked with. I mean, they're everywhere I've gone. I've been super fortunate to have great people. So, and Gene's one of them.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a period where I wasn't shooting much, and you definitely helped me kind of get back going. So with our dark, moody bunny ears.
That's just hilarious, man. I hadn't even thought about that shoot in forever, and then now I'm going through it in my head again. I'm like, oh, okay, got that, I mean, you did some really cool things there.
It was fun, but it was like one of those things where like it's in my screensaver, like circulation, because I think it's just a great memory. Like I love those things about photography. It's one of the things I like the most. I don't look at a lot. I'm not a person that like hangs my pictures on the wall and stuff like that, but I like the memories that are with them. So usually the behind the scenes things or the funny things are what I end up going back to, not the actual photos. Oh, hey, Mick Millman, welcome. All right. So you're checking me out kind of late though. Play us a song. You're going to play a song, Gene? I am not going to play a song.
I'm not going to play us a song right now. In fact, you know what will happen as soon as that, my kids will just start running in here.
Oh yeah, it attracts them. Let me hold on for 1 second. If I can find it, I think I have a Polaroid somewhere from when I was in Miami. I think it's actually, let me see if I can find it.
Do you really? Are you in a convertible?
No, I'm not. I'm working as a photo assistant. You can probably still hear me because I have a lavalier in my car.
Yeah, no. I hear it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, let me see. I was looking at it the other day because somebody was asking me about it. Where is it?
Did you wear a lot of pastels?
I had like bright colored shorts on.
Yeah. Ray-Bans.
No, I don't see it. I must have put it back in a box somewhere. I'll dig it out someday. I have very, very short hair and and very, very big glasses.
I've just got Jan Hammer playing in my head, a Miami Vice song. I was just down there. I was in Miami and Fort Lauderdale twice last year for shoots and conferences and stuff. And I stayed in Miami Beach once, and that was awesome. And then the next time I was there was in Fort Lauderdale, and it rained all day for 4 days. It was So it was like a jungle, like the humidity. I could not stand to be outside for more than 30 seconds. I was just, forget it, out.
Yeah, it must have been the summer because it rains every day.
Oh
in the
yeah.
summer.
Oh yeah. It was very, 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 very hot. Very hot.
Yeah, it's like a rainforest.
And
What
that's
you
not
learn
me.
to do when you live there is you you leave. No, what you learn to do when you live there is that you shoot first thing in the morning and you do nothing all day. And then you shoot in the afternoon, the end of the day.
Were you a beach bum?
No. I mean I used to although I think in that picture I'm wearing shorts, but I almost always wore like long pants because I get burnt. I'm Irish.
Oh, I know. I just, humidity. No. Not good for my skin.
Photographers get paid. What do photographers get paid for doing fashion shows? I don't do that kind of work. I mean, typically you would get hired by a magazine, so you get some kind of a paid day/page rate. I'm guessing probably like $400 or $500 a day, depending on the magazine. I mean, I'm just throwing that out. I have no idea. Some photographers go and just shoot it and they sell the pictures, and other people get hired by the designers. So it really just depends on who you are going there. That's the thing. Like photography is not just you walk in and you get paid a certain amount of money. It's like who hired you to do it and what's the value of the photos to them. I've had designers want to hire me to do that kind of stuff. I do not shoot fashion shows. Whenever they ask me to do that, I always say, let me set up backstage a white background and I'll shoot all the people as they go out and then you'll get better shots, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alexa's talking to me. That's generally the way I would do it. And then I would charge, if they depends what they're using for. It's a lookbook. I would charge whatever a day rate is for that. I mean,
just make sure you get those waivers. Get those waivers signed.
Yeah. Let's see. I've actually seen your videos. Oh, yeah, I am. I'm working. Yeah, an actual fashion show would be like event photography. Yeah, it really just depends on, like I said, it depends on the fashion show and who hires you. You might get hired by the actual fashion show themselves to use those images for their advertising for the next year. So this comes back to what I was saying before. What you charge really has to do with not you physically being there. We have to get that out of our heads as photographers. You don't get paid for like doing the pictures. You get paid for what the pictures are used for ultimately, and that's the way it works. No matter what you're shooting, if you're shooting for a magazine, they're being used in the magazine. If you're shooting for a catalog, they're being used in the catalog. Even if you're shooting a portrait, what's somebody using that portrait for? They're using it for, they're going to use it for their Facebook. They're going to use it for whatever. Maybe they're getting a print made. Like that's what you're getting paid for, not that time that it took to take it generally.
No, absolutely. No. Someone's asking about the streets of Brooklyn. Love them.
If you're in Florida right now, after all your experiences, where would you start to be a fashion photographer? Yeah. I mean, no matter where I am, if I was starting right now to do fashion, what I would do, okay, I'll tell you what I did, and then I'll give you the translation into 20 years later. Basically, the way that you get going as a fashion photographer is you get editorially published, because what you're trying to prove is that you can do the work. Like most companies aren't going to hire you just to shoot their catalog until you have some kind of fame, for lack of a better word. So what I did was I went to local magazines. Well, the first thing I did was I went to modeling agencies to make connections, and then I got makeup artists and whatever. So I'm building my portfolio, I'm building connections. Then the next step in is to go to local magazines who are hungry for content and don't pay anything, and through them you get your first tear sheets. Then you use those tear sheets to get to better magazines, and boom, 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 you work your way up, and then eventually you can hit brands. That's basically the path. So these days, because there's less kind of small local magazines, although they still do exist, I would probably translate that part of it to like online magazines, things like, Instagram magazines, stuff like that. Still go out there, get your models, still go out there, build your team, still go out there, get your stylists, shoot cool stories, submit, put them on your Instagrams, whatever, submit them to these, online pages, and try to build up a bit of your kind of, we were talking about earlier, your fame, if you will. That way we have that to show when you go up to clients. That's how I would do it now if I was starting from scratch. So hopefully that kind of ties in. But it wouldn't matter where I was in Florida or anywhere, because I have no idea what's in Florida right now. It's all the same. Every day to print. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Actual fashion show. Okay, that's that. Hey Daniel, how are the streets of Brooklyn? I haven't been to Brooklyn since this whole thing started. I actually notoriously stay out of Brooklyn, and Gene probably knows this. It's actually a thing I say quite a bit. I don't go to Brooklyn, which is actually hilarious and being so like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And the reason why I don't go to Brooklyn has nothing to do with Brooklyn itself. It's just that once you go into Brooklyn, I might as well be going to Florida. It's like so hard to get in and out of Brooklyn. It's the most difficult place in the world to get in and out of.
Okay.
So I don't go to Brooklyn.
I shoot a lot in Brooklyn, and I can't agree more. I hate it. It's almost like ruins the experience. But down, I mean, there are so many great areas that just are natural urban beauty, you know, that you can get some great urban landscapes. Or I've done some wedding stuff over there I'm really happy with. I mean, down by the water. I mean, it's always transforming down there. So you want to make sure you hit the older areas with the cobblestones, and especially after the street sweepers are come by and there's not like a wet wash across it. So it pops a little bit more, especially during the time of day. And obviously everyone wants to get a shot with the Brooklyn Bridge in it. So of course you have those certain areas by the courthouse. But yeah, I mean, we do a lot of music video work down there, a lot of just portrait stuff. I mean, just it's you know, it's like shooting fish in a barrel sometimes. I mean, obviously kind of technique wise, but they've got a lot of good stuff there, but it is transforming and modernizing in a lot of areas. So I think a lot of places they're heading up north a little bit, you know, towards Queens, and just kind of, where is it? I'm trying to think of like, we do a lot of Sony stuff over there. So I'm trying to think of the area, and it's just.
Oh no, you do Sony stuff in Brooklyn. That's a surprise.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Well, look, I mean, they have a lot of lofts that overlook the city, and you know, I mean,
when you get into Brooklyn, they look at you and they immediately have you switch your pants to one size smaller.
That's true. Yeah, no, I'm terrible, man. I honestly, yeah, I still love wearing flannels. I still don't, you know, I do not dress the part at all, and I don't really care either. I'm definitely just not part of that culture. I don't try to be, and I don't want to be. I'm just very. I mean, I can't afford to be. None of us can afford to be. So it's but there's a lot going on over there. I mean, always, but it's just any given day. I mean, you never know what's going to be filmed over there, or what streets are going to be blocked off, but I mean, it's fun to bum around, and you know,
it's true. I make fun of it. I mean, obviously I go wherever. I used to have a pretty good client, actually. They were like like a beauty, like a makeup school, not the special effects makeup like Seth does, but like I don't know, beauty makeup, whatever you call it, school. And they would hire me. I used to go in like every other Saturday and shoot the models for them. That was a pretty good gig.
Yeah, no, but then they have a lot of studio spaces now there that everyone's there, but they charge premiums. But I mean, they're great shooting lofts. So I mean,
it's probably and basically, I would drive in. If you're going to go to Brooklyn, you go on like a Saturday and you drive in. Like you definitely do not want to. Trains into Brooklyn, especially on the weekend, are the devil.
Oh my God.
I mean, I can't even like. Yeah, you live on the train when you live. I mean, when you live in New York, you live on the train. The thing is, when I used to live in Queens, like I didn't mind, except right, the Queens. Yeah. Actually, there's the Queens Brooklyn thing going on. But when I lived in Queens, like I didn't mind as much. Like I would just commit a certain number of hours per day that I was just on the train, whatever. It just wasn't.
Yeah, true.
Now that I don't live in the city anymore, like just to get on the train to go down there, I'm just like,
no, Brooklyn is and you know, it's interesting. You know, I live in Jersey City, which is right across the river, and I live closer to New York Manhattan than Brooklyn is. So it's kind of interesting conundrum there. But a lot of the studios, I mean, they have backlines, so they have a lot of, you know, grip and lights and stuff like that. So luckily you don't have to carry too much. But yeah, the train schedules get so erratic. And parking over there, actually, contrary to believe, is really easy on the weekends. I think on the streets, I go over to Barclays for events and stuff like that, or certain shoots, and I have no problem finding street parking if you just look for a little bit. So it's pretty, you know, it's accessible.
Right. So what am I doing when I right now I can't work? I mean, I am working. So fortunately for me, or unfortunately, I don't know how to call that. I mean, a lot of what I do now is teaching, you know, so yeah, I'm not able to shoot portraits and headshots and stuff, but I figure those people will still need that work when this is over. So I'll probably get swamped, I'm guessing. So I'm just basically I'm doing this for you guys on my channel, but you know, I make videos for Adorama. So that's kind of, you know, I'm focusing on that basically. How about you, Gene? You're working though, right?
What now?
You're working with Sony, but you're not really. Are you shooting? What are you doing for shooting wise, or not?
Yeah, well, I am working. I'm editing 2 projects. I'm actually working on a documentary series here on artists in New Jersey. So it's funny, as we just said, I had a beep come in that I had some more interview files come in, but I've been working on some musician stuff that I got paid to do, editing some PSAs for them or some electronic press kits. I've been doing some, let's see, I mean, on here, if my computer even decides to boot up, but I've been doing some stuff on the backside, like for Sony, some B-roll stuff, some camera stuff, and then, you know, just interviews. And then honestly, I've been doing tutorials, like we'll be posting up some of our stuff, like tips and tricks for our cameras. And I don't know about you, but I hate editing myself. I hate looking at myself. I don't like the way I sound. I mean, I just can't stand it. And for the past few days, that's really been driving me crazy because I'm like, how can I even ask my wife? I'm like, why did you marry this? Like, why? You know, I don't, I mean, I, when I'm on set or something, I feel like I can command. When I'm teaching, I feel like I can command. I feel like I speak very well, but then I look in the playback. I'm like, this is total garbage. I mean, you slouch. I mean, I just, you know, you just look at yourself and you're just like,
Oh, yeah,
like here, even
yeah.
now, I'm like, drop the damn shoulders, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm just naturally a tense person. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'm so used to it now. But yeah, at first I was, well, I never, at the beginning, I didn't edit my own stuff. So it didn't matter. But then when I started editing my own stuff, I was like, yeah, you're just listening to yourself over. That's why generally I'll shoot stuff in batches, and then I give myself some time, then I go back and edit it. That's just how I do it.
But yeah, I could stay to look
Which
at
is
myself.
it's just how my brain works. I mean, now I'm doing this like every day. Actually, I'm using this setup when I do the quick things every day, and I'm just shooting. I don't edit it. Like all my stuff on my channel where I'm just talking, I don't edit those. If you ever see any cuts, it's because like I sneezed or something. I just take that out. Otherwise, I don't really. I just record it, and then I just put it out there. Like I don't even listen back to it. So if I say something crazy, I mean, I'm not. That's why sometimes people ask me a very specific question. I'll be like, "Did I say that?"
Yeah, I know. Right?
That's our neighbors. That's true. You guys are both in Jersey, which basically makes you neighbors.
Who?
Vanessa, I knew.
Vanessa who?
Vanessa Joy.
Oh, Vanessa Joy. Got it. Yep. Very good photographer.
You guys are. She's in like the. Is she in Freehold or something? I don't know. She's
yeah. No, I don't know. I think she's out west, probably near Florham Park or something. But I don't know.
Yeah, she's in like the fancy part.
Yeah, I'm not. No. Yeah, I'm a city boy.
I only know Freehold because that's where Springsteen was born.
I know.
Jersey City.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's out where the fancy people are, and Jean's down in the urban awesomeness.
I'm in the city. Yeah, I'm closer to New York. But yeah.
What's on my photo bucket list? I take every day at a time. I don't really have a certain thing I want to do. It changes day to day. I don't know if you have something specific that you're planning on or you'd love to shoot, Gene.
I'm like you, to be honest, day by day. I mean, honestly, I've kind of done a guerrilla setup. I'm trying to do things as small and as accurate, just the small bare bones. I mean, at first, if you looked at this setup outside of this mess that's in back of me, there's a whole different mess behind here of lights and Atmos recorders and whatever garbage, guitars, everything. I mean, it literally drives my wife crazy. But I really want to transform my living room coming up here into some type, because I'm doing I do a lot of some products like guitars and stuff. Like I'll do some stuff for manufacturers, and I just want to do some weird portrait stuff. So I have like these Savage, I grabbed some stuff from Savage, Savage backgrounds, and grabbed some floor mats and stuff from them. So I have them kind of like underneath my living room rug now. They're just resting there, trying to flatten them out. And so I'm going to go to town probably in the next week and just do some MacGyvering set to see how quick I can transform my living room into a set and back before my wife finds out. Nice. So that's what I'm going to do, because she will just lose it.
That's a photo. I like that.
That's what I'm going to be doing. Well, it's this quarantine thing, or where, I'm sorry, stay at home, whatever. I mean, just have to be careful. I mean, we actually have, there's a photographer for Sony named Paul Giroux who's done some pretty cool stuff out west, where he's just going around and doing family portraits behind their like front door and shit. And it's really kind of cool. So it's really artsy. He did a really good job. So that's why I would love to give him props for that, because you should check it out. I'm like, damn, that's inspiring. You definitely, anytime that there's something that I wish I would have thought of that first, I'll probably.
Yeah. See, My problem with that kind of stuff, although it sounds pretty awesome, is that what I don't want, like I keep like every time I see somebody go out in Times Square and they're shooting it, it's like, well, it needs to be documented. It's like, I get that. And I get that driving people. I guess I'm not a journalist, so maybe that's why I don't think like this, but it's like everybody's thinking that. So there's like people like we don't need everybody out there shooting the damn thing. Like, so I just feel like that feels a little irresponsible, but I mean, you know, whatever. I don't know the guy. I'm sure it's awesome. I'm gonna go look at it now. Like I would never do that.
Check it out. I mean, I don't believe me. He's suburbs. He's not urban, so I'm sure there's a lot of social distancing, and you know, kids will put notes on the front door, so it's all arranged. He's just not like walking around. I think it's all predetermined. But I still think it's a curious idea. I like it, but I agree with you on one part that you have to be responsible. But yes, the other half of me is really pissed off at myself that I'm not out there right now documenting. I mean, what I do document? I take my camera out, my infrared camera. I've got some stuff and I walk my dog around the block with my mask on, and then I see all of the damn latex gloves and masks just flying everywhere. And if I see something of an interesting composition, I'll photograph it, just because it's just, that's going to be, you know, that's part of the time we're living in. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm careful about my health. I want to be careful about everybody else's health. And you know, it's just really scary. But if I'm not doing something to create, I think I would just die. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, but you got to work yourself. You just can't crawl in a ball and watch Netflix and Amazon for hours and hours and hours on end. I mean, unfortunately for me is like I have a almost 7-year-old first grader. So in the mornings, I'm a first grade teacher. And right now I'm discovering exactly how bad I am at first grade math. I mean, it's terrible. And I cannot, but after that, it's like at noon, it's like, okay, then I have to shift into work mode and go, because my wife is trying to save Wall Street, you know, in our bedroom, you know, via these conference. I mean, they're still going full time. So it's definitely just becoming, it's important, I think, to keep a routine. I mean, like you get up early. Like for me, my routine starts with my cup of coffee. Like I got a cup of coffee. I've got a jigsaw puzzle for 1,000 pieces. I knock a few out in the morning. I'll cook the kids breakfast, sit my 3-year-old daughter up so she doesn't, you know, try to kill my son, and then try to get him to get some work done. So then I can go up here, and then I can do my work, which is right now, honestly, it's becoming more video oriented instead of the still side. And then hopefully next week I'll be able to do a little bit more on the still front. Because I mean, there's so much going on out there, but I want to track what's going on in here. And I agree with you. I think there's a fine line being irresponsible and then just, you know, a creator. I don't agree that, you know, with some of the stuff people are doing out there.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I don't want to be like a stick in the mud, but I feel like that sometimes that makes people do things that maybe they shouldn't. So I think, you know, be smart about it. And I think people should document their own thing. Like maybe not think about that this used to be this like gigantic project. I feel like that like all the little things that are happening are kind of more conducive to what's actually happening with us than these bigger things, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion. But so let's see. Chetty Weeby, as I say it. If you're a beginner photographer, shooting beginner models, mostly first timers, do you still sign them paperwork? Well, there are a lot of people saying yes. I actually kind of disagree with this. I do not get model releases unless I think that I'm going to actually use it for commercial purposes. Because, you know, here's the thing. If you're only going to use it for stuff that you could use without permission anyways, this is in the US now and whatever, and I'm not a lawyer, so, you know, then all you really need to do is show that they were okay with you photograph. Like literally, if a model is posed in my studio being lit by me and I photograph them and then I put it in my portfolio and then they come back and say, I'm going to sue you because I didn't say it was okay for you to photograph me. I mean, like, that's just bizarre. Like, first of all, I wouldn't shoot somebody I thought that was an issue. But if they are models and you don't know who they are, I definitely would establish somewhere in writing what exactly you're going to be doing, if not actual model release paperwork. Because a lot of people would be, I mean, if some random person wanted to photograph me and they were like, sign this model release, I would read, if you read the language in a model release, I would never sign that. I'd be like, no, because most model releases basically give you the right to use it for anything, because that's just your generic model release. So I think instead of having an actual release for kind of newbies and stuff, I would instead make sure that you have enough proven communication. That could be text back and forth, emails, stating exactly what you're doing, where they agree to it. And then that's probably all you need, you know. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so that's it. Although I do agree with Alvin, if you're thinking about doing this professionally, it makes sense just to get yourself used to doing the practice. So maybe even make an invoice and blah, blah, but just don't charge them. I agree. That's not a bad idea. I think I've even said that before. But if I'm just randomly shooting my friends because I'm trying to build my portfolio or they're new models and we're neither one of us are really at the point where it's actually going to be used for anything, I would not worry about being super complicated with that. I think you can scare people off. That's my personal opinion. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so you tell me.
I usually do get releases because my work, I mean, especially if I'm going to try to do stock, portraits or anything like that, I have to get, you have to have
yeah, but you're not a new photographer working with
no, I'm a new photographer.
Yeah, this is very specifically a new, you're a beginning photographer working with beginning models.
Oh,
I wouldn't worry about that. Because first of all, people are paranoid and they look at stuff on the internet. I mean, there's so many models and people, and again, they have every right to be paranoid, but there's so many people out there that want to be models and stuff that are like, well, I can't come to your professional photo studio because you might be a maniac. Well, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I have 25 years experience. My name's everywhere. Like if you're afraid to go to my studio, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, or they'll be like, well, my boyfriend has to come and watch. These people, they are paranoid, and if you encounter those people, you want to make sure you cover your ass. That's for damn sure. But I have a pretty good vibe of keeping those people out of my life. So generally, people that I photograph, I don't worry too much about it. If it's a casual thing, if it's and all work, like any videos I do, anything I do beyond that, then yeah, I would use model release. Yeah. But yeah, that's a debate. That's something you'll see forever on that and I want to say timestamps, but that's not the word. That and what do you call it when you put your logo on an image?
Oh, watermarking.
Watermarking and model releases are the two most debated photography things. Oh, besides card slots.
I have to.
You're getting tired of shooting your food. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Let's see. Did a shoot for a car company, tried to use the argument about the usage. The owner said, yeah, but yeah. Well, what's funny about that though, Andrew, is that he's basically doing, that's a, God, I forget what they call that argument in debate. That's actually there's a word for that. His argument is not the same thing as you. It's like being like, well, you can't compare those two things. No, they don't. Well, it's not usage like that. Usage for them is the amount of advertising they're doing. Because what I would say to somebody like that, for me going around in a circle, because you don't want to have a debate, what I would say to them is I would say, oh, so when you put the ad in a magazine, they don't charge you for how many months you run it? Because of course they do. That's a fair comparison. He's paying money to put it in the magazine. He's getting a billboard. He's getting those things. They all charge by usage, and so should you. So that's how that works. Yeah, I am. Oh, Gene's treading dangerous waters. Oh, what happened?
What did I do?
I missed what you said.
What did I say?
Cause problems. Maybe you mentioned Sony.
I don't know.
Afraid the quarantine will last for another 4 weeks. Oh, yeah. I mean, I hope not. I don't want to get into that. I mean, my feeling on that is people are people, and if you were going to do something bad, I mean, the whole idea of a good person can be brought to do something bad, I guess, can happen in super extreme circumstances. But I think that most people, no matter what movies want to tell you, if they are generally a good person, they wouldn't do something shitty. They will not do it, in these situations. Lots of friends that I know are posting on their Facebook that are good people that I know are posting on their Facebook, and they're just like, listen, if you just lost your job, and you're close to me, I would do that, but there's somebody close to me. I will put food outside. You can come pick it up. You don't have to be embarrassed. I will give you food because I have extra. Because that's the kind of people that I put in my life. If you needed something, I've been yelling back and forth with my neighbor. We don't get close to each other because she's elderly. Like when I went, I'm like, if you need something at the market, I will get it. I don't say give me money because I know she would do that for me. And you want to surround yourself in life with good people. So I think that if people are in a shitty situation and now they're stuck, that's bad, but I don't think that crime or anything else is going to skyrocket because of this. I mean, I just don't think so. I mean, that's what I want to believe anyways.
We all do. I mean, I think it's,
yeah.
I think there's been a lot of great signs just around here, especially like there's been a lot of generosity. I mean, people are always checking up on people. It's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I see a lot of more people coming together than pulling apart. So
Me too, which I think is awesome. Like I remember that when we had massive snowstorms, I was still actually working with Adorama then, so it had been like 5-6 years ago, and they were having trouble getting the streets cleared. Do you remember that?
yeah, yeah, I do.
Well, we got like 2 feet of snow. Like suddenly, people were literally in my neighborhood like going around and shoveling out everybody's driveway, and we even shoveled out the street. People with snowblowers were literally in the street because we weren't like, oh well, we pay taxes. Yeah, of course you do, but they can only do so much, you know. But if you're
Right.
trapped, get together, band together, work together, and that's exactly what we can do here. And you know that's what I try to put it forth in my life. I mean, yeah, there's going to be scumbags that are going to take advantage of things, but you know, clearly people hoarding things. But I think a lot of people are helping as well. So
I think that's what's more to focus on. I mean, is it half full or half empty? I mean, either way you look at it, it's a terrible situation, but it's how you approach it. I mean, I think everyone's allowed to hit the wall once in a while. I mean, it's tough, but it's certainly, for what it's bringing out a lot of, I don't know, in my end, I'm a little bit more positive about it. I just have to, every day, just check your family, check your temperature, whatever, and just keep going, because obviously with kids, you just have to, I mean, they'll know if something's wrong. And so you have to just try to keep that under wraps and go forth and, pay your mortgage if you can. And, just try and.
yeah, and a lot of people are being great. Like I've heard stories to people that I know that like landlords being like, okay, you're good for this month, but your lease is getting extended, so I'm still getting all the money out of you because you're gonna stay extra time, but you can just not pay this month if it's gonna like make you,
right.
Which a lot of people might be like, well, they should. Listen, landlords are people just like we are. It's like if they don't get your rent that month, they're losing money. So it's not like they're just like this money. Landlords have bills to pay and stuff too. So I think anybody who's doing that is great. I mean, so anybody who can give back on any way, should, and I think that the good people will.
Well, I think this is global, so we're all in this together. It's not going to be just a certain part. I mean, everyone is being affected. I mean, I think what I've been, and maybe Daniel through your, the chats and everything like that, it's just amazing that through social media, how you kind of discover, like, for example, where I am is kind of one of the heavier hit areas right now. We're kind of more the epicenter of, obviously we're higher than 24 states. I mean, in just this city, and then New York and Jersey City. I mean, we're all, it's just like popcorn, just things just bubbling. We all know people that are getting sick or that are in the hospital. And, there's some areas out there that haven't been as heavily hit yet. And, it's coming, but, they don't have a lot of the same experience that you're going through. And, but again, I mean, at some point in time, I mean, we're all going to be in this. I mean, it's going to hit everywhere. So it's just a matter of level of preparation, exactly what we can say that on our end, this is what we're experiencing to get some people ready for, and then just to be safe. Cause I mean, we're like, you don't go out. I mean, my wife, I don't know. I love my wife, but she was, she wants to work out back, and she asked me this morning, she's like, so do you have a problem, go to Home Depot today? And luckily I'm like, hell yeah, I'm not going to.
All right. You see, that's why Gene went out, because he was, don't talk smack about your wife. So, all right, guys. So we'll probably, since he's gone through 2 batteries, this is the time where I should pitch the Tether Tools case relay. So I have my camera plugged in. That's why it's not dying on me.
Did you say the Tether Tools case relay?
Yeah, did you hear that? We gotta get you one.
No, honestly, no. And where is it? I got it in here. See, I told you I don't have all my stuff in here, but no, Sony's got this awesome thing that I didn't plug in, and it's like an AC adapter for the cameras. And because I'm powering my lavalier and I mean everything through this camera, that's why. So my batteries weren't fully charged. So
yeah,
I didn't expect to go over 2 hours. So
yeah, we're really cranking. We probably should stop. I was having a good time.
No. What I was saying about this was that she wanted to go to Home Depot to do stuff in the garden. I'm like, hell no, I've got Daniel Norton I've got to do today. But I'm just,
oh God, now I'm
like, that's not a necessary thing to get wood and stuff for raised flower beds. So we've got to figure out what's necessary. Now, liquor, yes, liquor is necessary. I will get liquor delivered.
Well,
But
what I've been trying to do is I do things like I said. Most people are saying get 2 weeks worth of food at a time. So when I go out, I just get everything. So like I went actually needed some cleaning supplies. I went to the place. I went and did everything all at once. I went to the post office. Like I have 2 packages at the post office right now. I'm waiting until next week to go when I have, when I go out to do everything. Just if people just do that, that'd be good. I mean, I'm not
hold on, I
far
have to
from an
show
expert.
something. Just this is what I should be using with the Sony right now, and it can take 4 batteries. It can literally power a camera up to 2 days, and I didn't plug it in, so it's my fault. It's my fault.
User error is what you're saying.
Yeah, I got it right here. See, I told you I got all this junk over here. I still haven't built up this studio properly yet, but that's been my problem. So that's my fault. Sony does have a great accessory. I'm not gonna sit here and advertise, but it's awesome. Yeah. And
I need to get something like that myself because I have the 6400 and the 6500. But actually, what works for me, or has been pretty successful, is I have a 2.4 volt, like a USB charger, and I just plug it in while it hasn't really died. But I'm also not running a lab mic off of it. So.
Well, with this honestly, with this accessory, you can also power those cameras because this has a slide that comes off that can fit like FC50 batteries. So it's really cool.
Yeah, well, see, he's selling me on it right now.
See, salesman, always.
Well, it's not sales, it's solution. So yeah, I mean, that is one problem that I it's not, although it's not a problem because I very rarely go super long with the Sonys. But since we've been doing onset from my studio, that we've had that issue where one camera would like drop if we went too long. So, I mean, you can only get so much battery life out of a camera. What do you expect?
Especially when you're powering a lav through my niche. I was like, oh, that's stupid. I was dumb.
Yeah. So we'll have to learn how to do that. We won't tell Sony how you did that. You screwed
They're probably all watching anyways. They don't have anything better to do.
Let's hope not. I think I already blasted Sony. Well, I guess anytime I mention tight pants, I'm talking about Sony.
Anytime what?
I mentioned photography with tight pants. That's the code that Seth uses for the Sony influencers.
Nice.
Well, influencers in general, but generally Sony has the youngest ones. Nikon influencers are all old dudes. Although I guess they have a few young guys now.
Yeah, they do. And then Canon is going younger. They Lindsay Adler, Vanessa Joy, and
they're younger. I guess
I don't know these people.
I mean, I'm not saying they're old. Wow, that would sound super insulting. But I mean,
I did not say any of that.
I mean, like 19 years old, 18 years old. Like they're both very established photographers with amazing careers.
Right.
Not like they just have a good Instagram following, so they came in. I mean, I think Sony did a great thing. Even though sometimes we joke about the influencers, where they were the first one to really just like grab these people that were like good photographers that didn't have huge careers, but just had like massive Instagram, and they were just super interesting and great photographers on some level. Maybe they shouldn't be teaching off-camera flash into something, but they're good at what they do. And those photographers, Sony was the first one to grab them. So smart on Sony, man. They were very good about that.
Well, they were. I mean, I think that that Sony's been an amazing ambassador to mirrorless, as well as just being leading at the forefront for those, because they had the foresight that they don't need all of these artisans. They can recruit a pool of influencers that do a lot of different things and bring them together. And I mean, I was part of a lot of the vanguard of that as far as training them and bringing them in and doing all these helicopter rides. I mean, doing all this fun stuff with them to get everyone excited. And honestly, I think it's almost the same way that Under Armour took their approach, when they were a no-name brand. They just gave all of their stuff to like high school kids, in grade schools, and now that's what they know. It's a household name, Under Armour. Everyone wants to use it now. So I think that kind of, from a grassroots standpoint, that certainly was very, very smart marketing decision.
No, I agree. And I think people that maybe have gotten into photography in the last like 4 or 5 years might not realize that Sony was literally like not even on the radar. Like, I don't know exactly when they started bursting, but it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I remember having conversations. I had a conversation with Andy, and and Andy and oh my God, my name, the guy Peter, the printing guy,
Levitt.
And,
yeah.
We were sitting there and we were talking about something. We're like, wow, they have like such innovative stuff. This is before everything really broke and started. And we're like, man, but people look at Sony, like photographers look at Sony, and they're like, my TV is a Sony. Like I don't think about a photographer as a piece of electronic. And they were saying these two old. I mean, I say old. They're much older than I am. And they're like, yeah, they should have kept Minolta. That's a photography brand. And I kind of agree with them in a sense. I was like, yeah, that probably worked against them. But Sony being a huge electronic brand and finally came to work for them as people started accepting cameras more and more as electronics. Like in that moment, 8-9 years ago, people weren't really thinking of cameras. I mean, people were shooting digital cameras clearly, but it wasn't considered the way it is now. Like I feel like now people look at their small mirrorless camera the same way they might look at like an iPad. Like it's a cool electronic accessory that they create with. It's not a camera like we used to have. It's different.
Well, I don't know if you remember, like when I got into when I got into Sony, it's because I was shooting Nikon and Leica at the time, and I sold my Leica when I got married, and basically my wife is wearing it on her finger, but I held my glass. And I needed a camera that could accommodate that glass, and a lot of that was the Sony, and that was my foray there because they didn't have a lot of native lenses. So now, now of course we have over 56 native lenses, but it's certainly I got in it at the right time.
Does over 56 mean 57?
57 or something, yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, you're ready to have some visitors.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I don't know how they are now. I mean, clearly Sony wants you. Oh, look, clearly Sony wants you to use their lenses because they have a lot of great lenses. But I feel like some camera companies have been very adamant about no, don't put other glass on our camera bodies because it's a blah, blah. And I feel like that's just not the right attitude. People like to mix and match and to use what's correct for them.
Exactly. I mean, and there are other, obviously, I think Tracy Bosworth Page is on here, and she's a Zeiss ambassador, a really good photographer down south, who just told me that Lindsay Adler is face blind, and Tracy is too, which is an interesting addition. So, but yeah, Zeiss obviously was the first one to really jump with us, and we have a great relationship with them, but everyone else is jumping on the E-mount train too. But and obviously adapters, I think that's part of the fun of using 40, 50-year-old glass and all these cameras and just seeing what you get.
Well, my last foray into being primarily shooting Nikon, I was shooting with the D4S, and I was shooting all Zeiss. I love those Zeiss Nikon lenses.
Yeah, the Otis. Nikon. It's my assistant. It's my number one assistant. So yeah, but no, it's just oh gosh. So I even lost my train of thought. No, they use. I love Zeiss glass. I used to use them a lot on my Leicas as well, and we have a great relationship with them, and we're very happy to have our own factories going and our own great level of quality. It's a benchmark, but especially when you're future proofing against these huge sensors that are out there right now. You have to have glass to kind of accommodate. So
yeah, for sure. You get all that technical stuff in with Seth because I don't follow that.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's interesting. It's but again, if I get the lomography stuff, you like that stuff, don't you? That stuff's fun to use.
Oh no, I do. I love the old stuff. I just don't keep up with all the modern because I don't have to anymore.
Right.
It's actually for a while.
I know it's true. Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, oh, they have a 1 more megapixel. Good.
I know. I was about to say, it was like, Dan, you're slumming it with a D4S, huh?
Back in the day. Then I had a D5, which was very nice. Although I almost like the D4S better. Now I'm mirrorless. I'm very fancy.
Yeah, no. I know. I've got, what? Look what I found in the corner of the A92. Woohoo!
Hey. Yeah, I actually have. Currently, I work with Sony, Nikon, Canon, and Leica.
You've left out Fuji, though. You left out Fuji.
And Fuji, that's right. I don't have any Olympus cameras, nor do I have Pentax, but I have all those brands, and I use them all pretty regularly.
Sorry, a lot of outside interference here.
Do I think there's too much Photoshop, says Rick? I don't think there's too much Photoshop. I think you have to. I don't like when people use Photoshop to fix what they could have done in camera personally, but I don't think there's too much. Sony's NYC awesome. Oh, that's cool.
Hold on, sorry. No, don't move it. My son's directing me right now. What was that? Do I still have you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
okay. Sorry, I was like, oh god.
Yeah, well, this is what Seth always makes fun of me for. That when I stop reading the comments, it's like I'm frozen. I'm not fast at reading. I'm sorry. She's the same for a couple of years. Yeah, that's right. The head Sony / Minolta. Yeah. I agree. I love Zeiss. Zeiss is nice.
Yeah,
The
it's
Zeiss
special.
Planar formula is one of my favorite lens formulas.
Mhm.
I look at it like the way I look at these things. Whenever anybody talks about how much things cost, if you're doing this for a living,
Professionally, you have to have tools.
yeah, I mean, it's like anybody who, like, if you now I'm probably I don't somebody who's actually a mechanic or whatever is probably going to say something. But like if you're like a mechanic, you might use like Snap-on or like one of these like really fancy brands that we would never touch. Like I have Home Depot brand tools. Like when I buy like although I did switch over to for my last drill set to DeWalt, which is like even still not like the best, but they're like a level up because I finally broke through the cheaper stuff because but the reality is that you get what you need for what you're doing. So if you're doing it professionally, that's why we buy the tools we do. It has nothing to do with necessarily with name recognition. It has more to do with it does what you need to do.
Watch me. No, I love DeWalt.
Yes,
I use
DeWalt. I do love a Hasselblad though.
Yep, we agree on that.
I mean, there's so many great camera companies. That's the thing. Like you almost can't go wrong now. I can't say I picked up a camera in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that wasn't pretty darn good. Does it have every single thing, each one? Maybe not. You get what you need for what you're doing.
Well, it's like I say to everyone, and I keep repeating myself, like there are thousands of cameras out there now. If you're getting bad images off of any of them, it is not the camera. It isn't.
Well, I was joking with Seth. I don't think I said it last. I'll say it now with Gene to get your reaction. But it was hilarious. But it goes to show exactly what you're saying. So I'm my friend Yan, who's a model. She's because she can't get photographed right now. She's like, I'm going to start doing self-portraits. So I've been talking to her back and forth, and she has like a Sony something, whatever. It's like I don't know, like a lower level, but DSLR type. And she goes, I don't know, I'm trying to use my Sony, but I get better pictures on my phone. And then I was like, I was like about to type something. And she wrote back like literally a minute later, and she's like, that's because the phone's doing everything automatically for me, isn't it? And I'm like, exactly. You're getting better pictures with the phone because you don't know how to use the camera. Yeah. But once you know how to use the camera, you'll get better pictures with the camera. And that's it. There's not this instant jump to like, I have something that's expensive, so it's going to do a better job. You need the knowledge to go with it,
Yeah, so exactly. Exactly. Send her my way. We'll do some one-on-ones.
Yeah, you would like it. She's crazy.
I got time.
All right, cool. We're like, I don't know, 2 hours into this.
Yeah, actually over. Yeah.
I think we could probably wrap here. We'll have Gene back for sure because what else am I gonna do on a Saturday? Actually, Tales from the Loop just went live on Prime.
So good. Did you watch? How many episodes?
No, I haven't watched it. No.
Okay.
Spoilers.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
And you should know, even though it's based off a book, it's also a role-playing game, and I ran a whole campaign of the thing. I'm so psyched to watch it. So I'm going to watch it, but I like to milk things. This is my thing. I know people like to just like consume an entire show.
Yeah.
I watch one episode, then I watch something else. I'm watching.
Yeah, I'm only one episode in.
Okay, good. So we'll talk like once we get leveled up. I'm watching something. It's kind of a documentary / action movie type thing on the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, what's that?
It's just called Ottoman. It's on Netflix.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's pretty good. And I'm watching another thing called some sci-fi thing, which is pretty weird. It's like everybody has these little drones following them. It's supposed to.
Oh yeah. I started watching that too.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm almost done with that one. So, yeah.
No,
that's what I'm watching currently, guys. So let us know what you're watching.
Yeah,
it'll be a thing.
Because I need more to watch.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I had gotten rid of Netflix because I was watching everything on Prime, but then there was like, I forget what, Walking Dead. I was like, I want to catch up on Walking Dead. It was all on Netflix. So I got Netflix back, and then I just made a small, because I used to have like 300 things in my list. And I'm like, let me actually put things in my list I'm going to watch someday. So I only have like 20 things in there right now. So including BoJack Horseman, which Marissa insisted that I started watching. And I must say, it's very good. I was like, it's a cartoon. Other things you recommended have not been good. I'm sorry. But man, it's good.
Yeah, well, some guys saying Ozark, which is the new season I'm watching right now, is very good. And someone asked if guitars sync on Zoom, and they do not. There is latency.
Oh, yeah. So we can't play together unless we figure out a better way to do it.
Yeah, though a lot of people have been trying to do that. And I have not found a good solution to do it because I'd love to jam myself, but it just doesn't, it's not going to work.
Yeah, we'll have to figure. I mean, I'm not very good, but what we'll do is we'll turn my guitar off and have Gene just play, and I'll just,
No. Where's the fun in that?
you know, I'll bust out my ukulele, the ukulele and electric guitar combo.
I tell you what, man, everyone with all this being in time, I mean, there are a lot of people out there that aren't used to playing in front of an audience, and they're all they'll go on live on Instagram and Facebook, and someone's always just noodling around that I know, and I'm like, hey, I didn't know you played. You know, hey, we should play together. You know.
Yeah, I need to get into playing again. I go to my guitars because somebody asked me actually in a private message, so I'll just say it here. Like I've never. It's one of those things like playing games that I don't never. Not that I think I would ever be good enough that I would do it professionally, but like I specifically do it. It gives me like a solace. So sometimes there's times in my life where I play my guitar a lot, and then
Right.
there's times where I don't because I have other things going on. Like it's not something I go to every day. It's really, and this guitar, hold on, I'm pointing, the black one, was given to me by my brother in 1990 when I was just graduating from high school and he was going away into the military, which he's now retiring from this year. So he
Oh,
had bought the guitar and
congratulations.
was looking. Yeah, he's we were supposed to go out and see him, and unfortunately this happened. But he had picked it up in Germany, and he taught me how to play my first song, which was Pink Houses by John Cougar. And then I was enjoying learning it, and he said, keep the guitar. And then he left it with me, and I've had it ever since. So that's like pretty much my prized possession.
That is a great story.
Yeah,
I
it's not a
really
great
wish
guitar.
I still had my first guitar or something, but I'm a hoarder. I buy and sell. I collect. I've got a lot of them, and you know, I just unfortunately some of the ones that I wish I'd kept, I did not.
Yeah. Okay. So last kind of question: am I using OBS? No, we're not.
Nope.
Were you using Camlink? What are you using?
I'm using the hold on a second. I always forget the damn name of it. Hold on. It's the Magwell.
Yeah, they're basically just devices that change the HDMI signal from your camera to a USB signal,
Yep.
right? Essentially turning your camera into a webcam. So we're just using Zoom. I mean, I just have it said this Nikon is set as my camera. I have a Camlink, which good luck in getting one because as soon as this happened and people realized it was a good thing to do, like everybody's been buying them. Put your order in now though because they'll ship as soon as we get them. But I know
Right.
Adorama's been out of them. You know.
Adorama does have the Magwell though. It's a little bit more expensive, but I've had zero issue with it. I know some of the other guys in my team bought the Ultra Studio Blackmagic because he couldn't get the Camlink, and they're having, you know, it's kind of tricky. But this Magwell, I've had zero issues. But it's over $200. It's like $299 new, but they had a couple that were $250 used, and I got one.
Yeah, so I recommend it, you guys. I've been saying this. Oh, bye, Tracy. Sorry, we went off the rails into Netflix. It happens. Uh, yeah, guys. Like I was saying, and I've said every one of these videos. If you have something to say, and I think everybody does, you know, get online, do it. Like this is the time to do it. So start a page, put your knowledge out there, share with people, and continue to learn. I put Gene's info in the description, so if you guys want to follow him, also
Please
if you want
do.
to type it in the chat.
And yeah, I'd love to come back. It'd be fun.
Yeah, and we'll get Gene back. And yeah, I think we'll be out of here. Hold on. What's his last thing? If you choose from one photo from all human history to become the icon of photograph, the way the Mona Lisa has become iconic painting, what would it be? Oh, I don't really have an answer for that.
Joshua Tree photo from you to Anton Corbijn.
Oh, what is it?
The Joshua Tree photo from U2.
Oh,
the Joshua
yes.
Tree album. It was shot on Hasselblad, and it's from Anton Corbijn. I think that's one of the most iconic photographs.
Okay, yeah. You know what? Hell yeah, that is a great photo, and I'll see something different tomorrow. Okay. But yes, that's a great. Yeah, I mean I'm a huge fan of Anton Corbijn and all music photographers. I love music photographers, even though I don't do music photography. It's one of my favorite genres to look at because I'm interested in music and stuff. So.
Yep.
But more interested apparently in fancy clothes.
Yeah, no, yeah, you are.
So you wouldn't necessarily know that by looking at me. All right, so all right, so I'm going to end this if I can figure out how.
Yes.
I guess if you haven't already, guys, go ahead and subscribe and do all the bells and stuff, and follow Gene, and we'll bring him back next week. Will we be on TikTok? I don't think so. Maybe. TikTok is like Vine, I guess.
Damn, I'm so I need to know this stuff, but I don't.
The thing about TikTok is every video that is basically, well, generally a girl, it's not always a girl, puts their phone down on something and then looks at it for a second, then runs back and does some kind of funky dance, and then runs back and turns their phone off.
Why?
That's TikTok. So if you
But
can
why?
do that, it's
Why?
entertaining. It's entertainment. This is what the kids are doing, Gene. All right. So at that, we will end this.
Yes.
Oh, no, that's not how you do it. Here we go. We made the right button. Stop live stream.